in 5, 4, 3. Welcome to the Ham Radio Workbench podcast, your bi-weekly deep dive on technical topics of interest to the radio amateur. If this is your first time joining us, thank you for joining us. We have over 261 episodes in our back catalog. You can find us on our website, www.hamradioworkbench.com. You can connect with us on Facebook. The group name is Ham Radio Workbench. Are you seeing a theme here? You can connect with us on Discord on our new Never Expires Discord link found on our hamradioworkbench.com website. And you can find us on the Brandmeister Talk Group 31075 or All-Star Node 55915. So on today's show, we have a very special guest, and we are talking with Lynn Hansen KU7Q. Lynn is Lynovation, and we're going to talk all things about Lynn's products and his development path. Lynn was first licensed in 1971 as WN7QIG, and he has been involved to some degree in ham radio ever since. He upgraded to Extra in 1981. And received the call KU7Q. His passion for radio led him into a career as an electronic tech for a local power company. He retired in 2018 after 39 years as the operation manager over a 3-state communication network. His very understanding wife, I like how he put that, has supported his constant tinkering for 46 years. He has 5 kids, 15 grandkids, and a spoiled, rotten dog. I have no idea how he finds time to do anything. Lynn, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Right on. And on today's show, we also have Mike, VA3MW. Hi, Mike.
Hello, Vince and everybody. Lynn, find it nice to finally see you face to face. We've traded a whole bunch of technical geeky stuff in the early days of Lynovation.
That's true.
Looking forward to hear more.
Out. Yeah.
And how's things in Eastern Canada, Mike?
No snow. I did hear it might have been colder out where you were, but it's not exactly warm either. But all good.
Good. Right on.
All good.
And we also have Thomas, K4SWL. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Right on. Good. How's things?
Things are going really well here. I'm about to, at time of recording, I've got I'm staring at 3 or 4 weeks of just crazy travel here and there and everywhere. So it's like the calm before the storm here on the mountain of Western North Carolina.
I can relate.
I bet you can.
It's a bit of a ham-fest hell for me, too, starting with Dayton.
And we also have Paul, WD9GCO. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
What's going on?
Everybody? Our temperature weather here is all over the place. It's 80 one day and 2 days later it's 42. So we're at that time of the year where I really have no clue what to wear in the morning.
As long as there's pants involved, we're happy.
There's definitely pants.
That's good.
Because right now it's down to 43. So.
Okay. And we also have Mark, N6MTS. Hi, Mark.
Hello. How y'all doing?
I all are good. And you?
Hanging in there. Weather here's standard California, sunny 72. Sorry, y'all.
It just sounds
another
like
beautiful day on the central coast of California.
It's varying all over the place. 71 one day, 72 the next.
Yeah, I know, right? How do we... I don't know how I cope.
Oh, well.
It's a sacrifice I make to live here.
Well, and we appreciate your sacrifice, taking a hit for the team like you do every day of every year. So from an announcements perspective, hey, this is the episode that drops before Hamvention. And so come and find us at Hamvention. We are in booths 3011 and 3012 with Halibut Electronics and Sierra Radio Systems and Ham Radio Workbench and all of us that are traveling down to Hamvention coming to hang out. So we really hope that we will see you there.
Come and see me at the Flex booth.
And come and see Mike at the Flex booth. You bet.
Yep.
So That's what I can tell you from an announcement.
Pactena will also be there, but the
Thank you.
reason we didn't mention it is because Pactena is kind of rebranding a little bit of Sierra Radio Systems. I don't know, it's weird. Talk to George, but yeah, Pactena, Sierra Radio Systems, Halibut, Ham Radio Workbench.
And also,
How many things can we stuff into a booth?
Well, 2 booths.
A lot.
We have 2 booths
Yeah, well,
this
okay.
time, but yes.
and also, if you're going to 4 Days in May, we'll be at the dealer night on Thursday for 4 Days in May at that hotel.
That is true.
You know, if you've never gone to that, and I can't make it there anymore, but it blew me away both nights, actually, of 4 Days in May. Are just such a cool, relaxed, neat event to attend.
Yeah, and let me just say, and first of all, both of those nights have grown exponentially, but especially the first night, Thursday night, the vendor night. A lot of the YouTubers found it.
Yes.
It's just gotten crazy in there, and it's like shoulder to shoulder. It's really amazing, though. And I have to say that 4 Days in May is more than just those 2 nights, too. Thursday, all day long before Hamvention, there's a really, really good conference, despite the fact that I'll be speaking at that conference this year. So if you're there, go ahead and bring a pillow to fall asleep during my presentation. But the presenters in that group tend to be really amazing, and most of them are above my heads. I'm definitely in total awe when I'm listening to these presentations. They're wonderful and really fun and whimsical a lot of times too.
And I've never really been a QRP person, but you, Thomas, are kind of dragging me into trying. Well, you and Vince getting into trying that. So last time I walked around and looked at the stuff closer, and it's amazing. Because most of what's there is stuff that just like you guys, just hams that are into that hobby, make little things that they wanted to use. And somebody said, well, I'd like one too. So they started making more of them. So a majority of what's there is just, small personal business
A personal
stuff.
project that turned into a business. I know nothing about how that works.
Nothing at all about that, Mark.
No, nothing at all.
It's one of the things I really love about amateur radio in general is I get more excited when just a couple of people or someone who makes something. I've been fortunate to be at the end of someone sends me something and they're like, hey, I just made one of these and I made one for you if you'd like it. And I try it and I'm like, this is really cool. You ought to consider selling it or doing something, and people end up doing things like that, because they've made some little niche product that does a really good job and enhances your outdoor portable experience or whatever. And I love that. And you're right, Vendors Night's just chock full of them. I mean, we actually are having to kind of expand 4 Days in May a bit because there's just hardly enough room for everybody that comes there now, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
I mean, you find cool little stuff. I found this thing. Some guy with a beard was making
What is it?
these
What does it say there?
It says Haliki MIDI.
Who sells that?
It's some guy. He's got a beard and he's
some guy with a fishy.
He's
logo.
a little strange.
He's strange because he doesn't get real weather.
Yeah. He doesn't get real weather.
Doesn't get
true.
real weather. And this is also why I need to bring the fan for the booth.
Yeah, the Halifan.
He brings his own fan. Yep.
Yes.
It's true. Yeah.
Well, no.
It's his own fanboy.
I bring his own fan.
Wait, that makes you the fanboy.
That makes me the fanboy.
Yeah, that's true. Paul is my fanboy.
Yes.
Well, it sounds like a heckin' good time is going to be had this year at Hamvention. So,
except that one of us won't be there.
I think a couple of us.
I'm very sad.
I'm
very sad.
I think one of you won't be there.
Yeah,
Vince. Yeah. Vince isn't coming.
Vince doesn't like us anymore.
Yeah. I have a badge for Rod. Do we know whether Rod's coming or not?
I have not heard from our consigliere.
He's still in stealth
about his
mode.
attendance.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still in hockey.
Hockey
mode.
season hasn't ended yet, so he's still
not quite yet.
Yeah.
Not quite yet. So
still hockey dadding.
We hope that you can pop by and have some fun with us at 4 Days in May or at Xenia Hamvention this year and stop and say hello because we really enjoy hearing and seeing our listeners come by and just chit-chatting because we're just half a dozen guys who get to sit around and have a coffee shop chat and a whole pile of people get to listen to us and we have some fun and it's great to meet the people too. So come by and visit with us.
Because we really like to see what kind of people think that this is fun, and we'll sit and listen to it for 3 hours.
And then some. Yeah,
And
Lynn,
then some,
Lynn, we
yeah.
did warn you that you'd be here for like 4 or 5 hours, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Okay, perfect. So Lynn is our extra special guest this evening. Let's get into what everybody's been up to. Tell us, Lynn, the euphemism is what's on your workbench.
Well, my workbench is in back of me, and there's almost always a Lynovation product being built back there. But when I do find time, I'd like to occasionally get on the air, but I don't have a lot of time to do that anymore. But when I do, I usually just go to FT8 just because it's easy to get on, and you can make some contacts. You can get it in your log. You can talk to some places that I've never been able to get to before, seems like.
Yeah.
So, so that it does rekindle the spirit of that little beep out there in the ionosphere is actually somebody talking to me. And that was probably what drove me into amateur radio, when I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
I listened to my grandpa's shortwave radio, and it doesn't take long to say, there's a bunch of beeps on there. What is that all about? And that just piqued your interest, and I never slowed down after that. It really became a lifelong obsession, and it's probably even got to be more of an obsession now. but it keeps me, like I tell my wife, it keeps me off the street and out of the bars. So
The scary thing is, people come up to us and ask questions about ham radio. It's like, as a resource or an elm or a reference. And who'd have thought?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Lynn, what kind of antenna are you using?
Well, I just have a basic end-fed half-wave out there, mostly because we just moved to the house we're in now, about a year and a half ago. And first thing I found out when I went to start digging a little foundation to put my hex beam up is all the dirt around our house is not dirt, it's rock.
Oh,
And so
that's worse than sand.
Oh, it's terrible. I can't plant anything. I can't plant an antenna. I can't put a tower in. I can't even put a beam or a post in. I was going to try to just dig in a 4x4 post to mount an antenna mast up, and I can't even get a hole in the ground. I finally found a place to start digging to put a hole in the ground to put a 6-meter delta beam or delta up. And I started digging down, and I thought, boy, this is digging pretty easy. And pretty soon water starts oozing into the hole. And I found a trench where they actually got the sprinkling system through.
Whoops.
Oh, no.
That's why it was easy
Not
to
as in
dig.
water table, as in sprinkler piping.
Yeah,
Got it.
sprinkler piping. So that kind of is, takes some wind out of the cells. So, but anyway, right now I've just got the end-fed long wire up, and I've got a satellite antenna that I want to get up and try to hit some birds. I just haven't had time to do it. Honestly, I'm pretty much a full-time retiree. I work every day, probably 12 to 14 hours a day. So I have fun.
On Workbench, I'm looking in the picture behind you. Is that a dryer vent with a little plastic rig that you use as a soldering fume vent hood?
It sure is. It's attached to like a magnifying arm, with the magnifying glass.
Yeah.
I took the magnifying glass out and I ducted that to my dryer vent and then run that over to an exhaust fan, which runs outside. It's got just enough suction to pull out, and it's got the light still in it, so I can turn it on, and that way I've got light on the boards I'm working on.
That is really brilliant. So I have one of those magnifiers on an arm that I use as a magnifier. And I'm wondering whether I could fit a second one coming from the other side with the vent arm. I love that idea.
It works really good because I can hover it pretty much where I need to. And where it is right now, it's just right above my pan of ice, and I turn that on. It's on with my solder station. So as soon as I turn my soldering station on, my vent fan comes on. Nothing, just brings all the fumes right out of the room.
I wonder if I could actually rig it up to the one with the magnifier on it. Okay, now you've got me thinking. Okay, thank you for telling me what that is, because I've been looking for a good solder fume vent hood system.
Yeah, I've looked at all the extractors they had, and they just really didn't seem like they wanted to do the job. This way, I have her just right above where I'm working, and so the smoke automatically goes right up into it, just vacuums it out.
That's brilliant.
It really worked well. So.
And to be clear, did you remove the magnifying lens?
Yep, sure did.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I do need a magnifying lens, I've got a little plastic container back there. I just pop it out and I just hold it, and use it as my magnifier.
Yeah.
Luckily, when I got my eyeballs replaced a couple of years ago, I got pretty decent vision.
I was going to say for our listeners, not our viewers this time on this episode, but Lynn's the only guy not wearing glasses.
That's
in the group tonight. So
that's because I had I got cataracts, which happened to be a blessing this day and age.
Right.
And they replaced my lenses, and I got multifocal lenses, so I can read without glasses. I can drive without glasses.
Wow. Multifocal.
Hold on.
They're amazing. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Can you can, because my buddy just got his done, and he was like me, nearsighted. Now he's pissed off because he's got to carry readers around with him.
Exactly. Well, you have the option.
Damn, I'm not blind and I have to carry glasses.
Well, and that's what I thought. They said, well, we can do, if we do fixed focus lenses, you can do a short distance in one eye and a long distance in the other.
Oh, that's how they do it.
And they said, my brother had that done. And he said, yeah, you get used to it. And you do, you get used to bifocals and trifocals and everything else. The brain's such a powerful tool that way. Oh, it's amazing.
It is.
There's a video I saw of a kid where eyesight-wise, they strapped a glasses to his head, but they were inverting, so everything was upside down. And he said, and the whole study is that within a few hours, the brain's managing it, and the guy was, finger quote fine, and over a couple of days, he didn't even notice.
Well, your lenses do that. You've looked at things upside down your whole life because your lenses do that automatically. So they just flip them right side up.
There's a really fascinating book called Fixing My Gaze by, I think her name's Sue Berry. She's a professor at Mount Holyoke. And she wrote about vision in general. And the real theme of that book is your brain. It is doing all the vision stuff. Like, when they work on people that actually have really profound vision loss and things like that, and they discover just how significant it is, yet they can still get along and do things. It's because the brain's filling in all the gaps, in just this amazing way. So I had no idea that you could get cataract lenses that were, multifocal.
And that was, they cost more and the insurance won't pay for it. But, I thought, the extra money to have the multifocals is worth it to spend on me, because if I don't spend it, my kids are going to get it in their inheritance. So I just want to enjoy it before we're gone.
And take it with you.
Yeah.
They'll buy Pokemon cards with that money. So yeah.
No, it was an investment in me for a change. So it worked out really well.
Great.
So.
That's awesome. And a very clever way to pull smoke away too. Mark, I would think guys like you and me, we'd have to build a hood and some sort of a scoop that would sort of sit around the outside of that the head where the magnifier and the lamp is to grab the fumes away.
Yeah,
but
you can do that. I just use
get a vertex going.
Yeah.
So I've got one of the desktop mount kind of rectangular ones, and even though it's sucking air, it does a really good job of getting the fumes. The fumes will travel a good 6 inches from where I'm soldering into that hood. But that means that the hood needs to be 6 inches away from what I'm soldering. And a lot of the times, my desk is a mess and I've got things all over the place and it's not that close. And so it doesn't do a good job. So I was originally thinking of something that I could just kind of
Mark is looking
these
for his
things.
words.
I don't know what they're called, but they're
Loc-Line.
Loc-Line. So I've got this 3-inch Loc-Line or 2-inch Loc-Line stuff that I 3D printed, and I was thinking about using that as a way of getting a vent hood in where I wanted it, but it doesn't expand and contract, and even when it's not where I wanted, it's going to be in the way, and so it kind of didn't work out like that. But I like the idea of putting it on the arm, because I already have to deal with the arm and everything else, and where is it and all that stuff. I've already got that taken care of. So
I've got another idea for you, Mark.
What's that?
I've got another idea. Get a Tilly hat and make like a vent hat.
Okay.
Right. So as you get closer to it, it's pulling. It's kind of pulling
toward my nose. That's a good idea.
Okay, maybe this wouldn't work like OSHA wise or whatever, but I think it's a great idea.
Those hats have that ventilation band in the top.
That's right.
You can just pull the smoke past your head; it'll go out the top.
Yeah,
that's right.
In all seriousness, I usually do already have the magnifier between me and what I'm soldering. So if I could put some sort of an intake on the magnifier arm, that seems best for me. So you've got me thinking about this, Lynn. I'm gonna go figure this out.
Yep, it works.
Wait till we're done here, though.
Is there any, this is a serious question, but a lot of like modern stoves or ovens, that sort of thing, they have like a vent hood that is not above it, but like behind it kind of scoops out. Do they make anything like that for, I'm guessing
Yes,
okay.
It's called a downward draft design. So the Gen Air cooktops are the famous one for this. Yeah. And they have a downward draft that the vacuum pulls it down through the stove, and then it routes up the wall and outside or whatever to get rid of the smells. Mm-hmm. And you can get that kind of a downward draft on your workbench, but it's fixed in place. Now, Mark is pointing something out to us. Go ahead, Mark.
So it isn't the one that's like on the back of the stove like you were talking about, but this is the kind of beige square that I'm pointing at is actually the carbon filter that's been stuffed full of solder fumes. The box around it is the actual fan. It's like a giant, 120 millimeter computer fan in there that's sucking air. I don't think it's doing the downward draft like what you're talking about, Vince.
No, and downward draft specifically refers to a gap in the top of the work surface where the air is drawn downwards through that gap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and which is a great place to drop parts and potty mouth appearances and stuff too, right?
Yeah. Well, my band of ice is probably 8 inches above my work surface, maybe 9. So it's hard to pull enough air to bring the solder fumes down. They want to go up, and they just go up into my little vent, and they're gone. I watch them go away, and I don't.
That's great.
Even smell them.
Clever.
Which is good.
Does yours vent outside, or do you have it vent through inside, through a carbon
it runs
filter?
runs around the wall in my office here, and comes out the window that's right in front of me.
Nice.
Where I've got my antenna ports and all that stuff. So it's only got to run about maybe 10 feet before it's outside. And I just bought a little inline fan off of Amazon, and little 4-inch fan, and it's switched on. It's plugged in the same strip as my soldering station. So as soon as I turn my soldering station on, the fan's running. So I don't have to think about it. So.
That's very clever.
I was given a laser cutter a couple of years ago, and I wasn't sure if it was free like beer or free like puppy. So far, it has turned out to be free like beer. I've only had to buy very few inexpensive things, and we have it working, but I don't use it at all because I don't have ventilation in my shop yet.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I need to set up. And so my intent is to cut a hole in the wall and seal it and do all of that fun stuff, and have a fan that sucks a whole lot of air, and then run hoses off, one to my workbench for what we've been talking about, one to the laser cutter, one to and one to the 3D printer was the other one.
Yeah.
And so all of these things that put out fumes that I don't want in my shop.
Yeah, especially the laser cutters. If you're cutting ABS, you don't want to do that. So, but I've got a laser cutter in my shop area. This is my office area here. I got two man caves in my basement. So this is where I do this is where I do all my programming and building, and then my equipment assembly and my shipping and my laser cutter and my CNC machine and my 3D printer all in another shop area just around the corner from this room. So, and I did the same thing there.
Remind me to start asking you questions about all of that gear when we get to the main segment of the show.
Yeah, that's where any kind of money I make on my business goes back into toys for my business and radios. I've got more radios than I know what to do with. You got to have radios to test with. You can't.
We don't
build
know
something
anything
like
about that problem.
Yeah, we don't. We have no idea.
Not at all.
Yeah, I'm sure. But,
I have exactly the right number of radios until I buy the next
I
radio,
don't.
and then that will be the
I'm
exact
sure
right
one
number.
radio. I just haven't found it yet. So
yeah.
So
The
but
correct
yeah,
number of radios is at least one more.
Yeah, my next radio is currently in California.
Yes.
With the
Yes, I was going to ask you.
We'll hold on to that until Paul comes up for Workbench. Hey, Lynn, anything else?
No, that pretty much covers me.
All right. Well, seeing as we said Paul's name, Paul, what's on your bench?
Well, I have been exercising the bamboo printer because I figured I got the thing. Let's see what we can make with it.
They're nice printers.
So I've gone deeply into the rabbit hole of just looking up on the printable, the various printing websites, and also YouTube has been very bad for that. One of the things that I'm currently in the process, and I hope I get it done in time for Xenia, is Mike K8MRD did a linked end-fed half-wave based off of a Pactena Ballon. And since I happen to have a spare one, I'm going to make it. So these are K6ARK, I think, designed these little printable S-beaners. And that's what he uses to make the linked segments. So I printed out a pile of these. There's this one YouTuber I know who does a lot of QRP stuff on that, and looks like he really needed a microphone for his QMX because at some point he's actually going to use voice. So I volunteered to print the bodies for that. And I have to say thanks to Vince, because the way it comes standard, it's a little short. I don't like it as short as it is, and it's really difficult to stuff all of the things inside that space. So Vince modified that and made it about an inch longer. And to me, it seems it's the perfect length now. So I printed some for me, and then I printed a pair of them for that YouTube guy. And I'll bring those with me to Xenia. Speaking of that YouTube guy, he did an activation with an Elecraft AX3 clamped to a picnic table with a very handy clamp that some other guy. People just send him stuff.
KE8 PTX Mike Roberge.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. We love the clamp, man.
And
it's the best.
I wanted one of those, and it turns out that Vince happened to have the plans, so
there you go.
Mine.
Paul, do you have any other color of filament other than purple? I just need to know.
Well, no, I do. But,
why would he?
But my ham radio stuff is all. First off, I've liked purple since I was a little kid. That's always been one of my favorite colors, and all my ham radio stuff so far that I've been printing is purple, partially because I like the purple, and also partially it's a tribute to one of my Elmers, to Bob Heil, who purple was always his color going back to the days of Heil Sound. And he explained to me why, because back in the day when they were touring, first off, all the faceplates of his amps, and I've got a few of those here, were purple, because it was kind of a branding thing when people would see it up on stage. And all of his microphone and guitar cables that belonged to Heil Sound, he had made purple, because at the end of the night when everybody's tearing everything down, they could tell easily if somebody's carrying some cables, if it's a purple one, it belongs to him. And that way he didn't lose cables. So the ham radio stuff I mainly do in purple just because I like purple, and also because it's a tribute to Bob. So,
all right,
just
thought I'd ask.
So that's the stuff that I've recently printed. I've got a couple other another secret little project that I'm working on that we'll see if it all works out. But I am learning how to things that work and don't work, and I'm learning how to adjust instead of sometimes you can't just accept the defaults when you download and load a project. You have to figure out some things that, why did this turn into a big glop of stuff? So I've been learning, and it's a very, very deep learning curve. And fortunately, I have some fairly smart friends who know how to do this stuff, who can tell me what I did wrong.
You know what I did, Paul, when I was printing the big plane and learning how to use PLA Aero, was I would take pictures and all my settings at a Bamboo Studio, and I dropped them into Claude.
Ooh.
And you know what? I was getting much better answers rather than going online, because I don't know people's, if they're guessing or their pedigree, or if they really know for sure. Because in that world, I know nobody, right? It's, here I know, hey, if I want to, I wanted to talk about audio, I would have, talked with Bob Heil type of thing. But anyway, it was like, I had like a weird ripple in it, and I took a picture and pasted it in. It said, "Oh yeah, you could do the offset rounding ripple," and so now I have all these customized print profiles in Bamboo Handy.
Sounds like I need
I
to.
like it to, and so Lynn, I built a 40-inch wingspan plane.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just waiting for the rest of the electronics before I actually go out and pile drive it into the ground at 1,000,000 knots.
Yeah, just make sure you get a video of it.
There'll be no video. The only thing is,
pile it into the ground. Just make sure you have a video of it.
I like to watch those on YouTube.
Don't go by yourself, because if it's by yourself, it's the worst thing that ever happened. But if you take a friend, it's the funniest thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
If you fly model airplanes, you get it.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to fly quads 10 or 15 years ago before they got so commercialized. I used to build them and fly them, and I flew a few of them into the ground, because as soon as it doesn't do what you think it's supposed to, you freak out and start moving the sticks around, and it just goes where it wants to.
What do you mean to fly tail in?
This is, and I'll explain this one a little bit later.
Purple.
This was one of the first things I printed.
It's a ham radio thing.
It is.
And that's amazing that was a first print, because like for me, when I had my Ender Pro 3, my first print was like, I don't know, like checker
Benchy.
chips or something.
Benchy was my first
Benchy.
one, but yeah. And then fortunately I've got a friend who's got a laser etcher, so we put my call in it. I'll explain what this is when we get into the other segment. Otherwise, I'm preparing for Xenia. I'm making a list and checking it twice. I'm getting the stuff I need to bring for the booth together. And I've got my All-Star hotspot is ready to go. I'm going to take it out next weekend for a trial, just to make sure that it connects to my phone hotspot like it should. And I've got the radio in the car programmed to hit it. Because if anybody has seen, I did a video years ago when I set up the radio in my Subaru, where I use the shift paddles, because I've got a manual, so I don't need the shift paddles. I bought them, they fit, and they're wired separate from the car wiring. So that's my push to talk. And I've got a headset that, a head mic that I wear, and that's been great, except I just realized that when I bring the All-Star hotspot with me, I need something with a keypad on it to connect to the hotspots. So I bought an RJ45 splitter, one that's just straight wired through split, and I shortened up the little pigtail coming out of my interface box this past weekend. So now I've got the mic for the Kenwood plugged into one side, so I can key up and call up the node, and then I just tuck it in the little glove box thing and use the headset and the other thing for
I know exactly what Mike would have done in that situation. He would have gone to Claude, and he would have had it make an application so that it would turn the paddles on your steering wheel into like CW paddles, and then you send the number
via CW from the paddles.
Tone, and then that sends the tones to the hotspot to change your hotspot settings. So there you go. That's what he would have done, just to let you know.
Okay, well, I didn't have that available to me, so I just wired up a thing.
Mike must be busy then.
Yeah. So
he probably was.
Real quickly, my wife and I went out, and because this is relevant to us, but not ham radio. We went out and saw Project Hail Mary for the second time because we loved that movie so much. And we knew that there was a lot of stuff we missed. And sure enough, there was a lot of stuff we caught the second time, knowing the plot and what's happening. We could focus on the little details, and we love it even more. And by the way, I'm now on chapter 7 of the book. So, yeah, we went out, we went down to Indianapolis this past weekend for some family stuff, and I did a couple of activations, which I'll talk about in a second. But my wife also said, we're going to find a Lego store and we're going to go find that kit. And I'm like, yes, I married the right woman. The problem is those things sold out.
Yeah, really fast.
Almost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy at the Lego store says, our understanding is that they completely underestimated how many of those they were going to sell. Yep. So they are most likely going to do another production run. So then we can get one. Because we tried. You can't even buy them on eBay or anywhere. All they're selling now is lighting kits for what's there.
Ooh, they have lighting kits?
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. If you search for Hail Mary Lego on eBay, most of what they are lighting kits.
I love mine. I mean, my wife has actually let it sit in a prominent place in the living room almost. Like that's like the only thing besides like some classic radios I have, like some vintage ones. That's about all the things that she usually jettisons all those things. But I know it's temporary. She'll probably move it eventually, but I'm like really enjoying it being there. Yeah. So a lighting kit would be really cool. Now, my daughter, Neva, K4TLI, she's in her finals week right now at school, and she's actually reading Project Hail Mary probably halfway through the book. She wants to read it before she watches the movie. I'm like, oh my goodness, girl, you've got to see this movie. And it's killing me not being able to use the references with her.
Yeah.
And by the way, for anybody listening, it is required viewing for the Ham Radio Workbench podcast. You're just going to miss a lot of stuff, a lot of references, unless you watch the movie.
And if you get to the end of the movie and you like it, go read the book, because the movie is only about 20 to 25% of the book.
I'm learning that there's a lot more, and it's clearly they couldn't put all that in the movie.
No.
I'm not complaining about the cuts they made for the movie. They had to do it because otherwise the movie would be 10 hours long.
And I'm enjoying the more in-depth explanation of things from the book. Yeah. So.
Same is true with The Martian, by the way.
Yes.
I was just going to say, we haven't even mentioned The Martian.
Yeah.
The Martian, I remember we have the director's cut of The Martian, and we watch it every single year in May. Actually, we have like a space week and we watch it. And so we almost know the thing by heart. But I remember the first time I saw the director's cut, I was like, okay, this is like the really long cut, you know? And I watched it, and I'm like, there's just... I thought that I remember scenes like that are not in here. Like this one whole section just seemed to happen faster than I remembered. And then I realized I read the book, and in my book, that was the thing that took so long. Thank you, Vince. Thank you for that.
Are you actually keeping count, Vince?
No, I just made up rat hole count 17 because the scenes were kind of going all over the place. I can't both host and do rat hole counting. So
yeah, exactly.
My duty is done. Sorry, Thomas. Keep going.
All right. And just a couple other things to wrap it up. Oh, speaking of new toys, and this is thanks to YouTube again. And Vince convinced me it was worth it. I just picked up this.
Oh, yes.
Which is the little Pinecil USB-C powered soldering iron. Because in my field toolkit, I've got a big butane powered thing, which takes up a lot of space. This takes up this much space, plus a USB, a nice heavy silicone USB cable, and it works off your power brick. And I can't. It's way smaller in person than I was thinking it was, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, having people that I know that have used it and say it's worth it, so I easily drop that. So. That's
25 or 30 US dollars, right? Like you can't
30,
go wrong.
like it's like $35. Yeah.
You need to touch base with Joshua N5FY because he found, I don't know if he made it himself, and he may have, but he has some print files for a nice little case for that.
Oh, cool.
That you can throw in a bag or something like that, and it keeps everything in there nice and tidy.
Okay.
So,
and there's print files out there if you own an Omnifixo, and that's also, mandatory tool set for Ham Radio Workbench.
Oh, that's right. I need one of those now. Yep.
So there is a print file you can get, and you can have your Omnifixo as a lid to the plastic bottom that you print that holds your Pinecil and the rest of the Omnifixo stuff.
That's the TS-101 all-in-one lower compartment for the Omnifixo.
Oh, I need that.
I just happened to be looking on it.
Put that in the show notes.
Omnifixo now sells that case, but I can't remember where I found mine. I might have to dig it up.
There's a whole box insert. There's
Put it in the show notes.
Can you print me a purple one, Paul?
Yes, I can. Because if that's going in a field kit, it should be PETG, and I've got that in purple too. So
nice.
Anything else, Paul?
Briefly, 2 quick activations this past weekend on our trip down there. I always look when we go somewhere where there's a park, and there was one halfway down between us and Indianapolis, and my wife said, "Sure." I'm like, "Okay." And it turns out that the first one, the park we stopped at, back when she was a little girl and a Girl Scout, that was where they would do their camping. The scout troop would do their camping every summer. And turns out that the dining hall that was there when she was a little girl is still there. So it's the Tippecanoe River State Park. The problem is that the river has flooded 3 times in the past month. So most of the lowlands had turned into marsh. And I'm not kidding, swarms of mosquitoes. When we drove back into the one area, I mean, clear visual swarms of mosquitoes. So we drove out closer to the gate, and I hosed myself down with some deep woods off, which worked pretty good. But way back where the camp was just it was just so. But I got that done, and on the way back, I did Fort Harrison State Park, which was an old War of 1812 is when it was built. A military base in Indianapolis. So those were 2 all-time new ones for me, and I got those done.
Awesome.
And then
Vince and I are like, that's just normal mosquitoes up here.
Yeah. These mosquitoes could have picked up my car and flown off with it had they gotten their act together. So
I knew a friend back in high school who had a T-shirt that said, "Mosquito, the state bird of Alaska."
Tomorrow morning, I get up way stupid early, and a friend of mine and I are driving to Atlantic City, New Jersey. We are both huge pipe organ fans, and the world's largest pipe organ is at the Boardwalk Center in Atlantic City. And we're also fans of this little British organist, Anna Lapwood, young lady who's amazing. And she's like reorchestrated the soundtrack for Lord of the Rings and for other things for organ. And so she's going to be doing the score for Lord of the Rings on the world's largest pipe organ on Friday. And we are going to be there because I've always wanted to hear that organ, and I've always wanted to see her play, and I get to do both at the same time.
If you've not seen her stuff on Facebook, I don't think you could find a happier person.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Well, Facebook or YouTube or TikTok. TikTok is where I first saw her. She's always got this energy and this smile, like a 1,000,000-watt smile. You can tell she so loves what she's doing. So
where does she play? She plays at the
Royal Albert Hall. She's the resident organist.
When I went over to the RSGB, whatever their annual event is called, name escapes me. I stayed in downtown London. I sort of took, did everything. And then I'm walking to where I was staying and walked right by there. And I thought, I bet you if I stay here till midnight, she's going to walk in and practice.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, if you like organ music at all, look her up. It's Anna Lapwood. And yeah, she is just the smile and the energy and the joy she brings to it is worth it. So that's it. I'm done.
Saw what I said. You saw what I said in our chat, right? With my experience with pipe organs, but to hear rock music played on a pipe organ, because our guys used to play like Lorelei from Styx, right? Yeah. And the church that we had moved this 1908 organ into, C sharp was resonant, so everything had to be detuned. And because the way you detune a pipe is you put a beard in front of the, I'm not a music person, where the air comes out to slow down the air. You don't want to change the resonance. You only want to turn down the volume, so that you have to balance each pipe in each rank. It's just like when you think about it, how many
lot of
pipes
work.
can be in a major. And as I said to Paul, in case you've never followed pipe organs, pulling out all the stops, because a rank, which is a collection of like trombones or different pipe types, is controlled by a stop. When you pull the stop out, it provides air to the rank. And it's like a XYZ matrix. So X and Y pick up the magnet underneath the pipe. It's a little leather valve. It's nothing super special with a little coil in it, and opens the valve. If there's no air there, of course, it makes no noise. So you pull the stop out to give the air to underneath the pipe. And so she even talks about pulling out all the stops, where they just pull out everything, and she plays, and it's like turning the organ up to 15.
Yep.
Right. And I'm sure they're all deaf at some point in time. But.
So that's it,
What?
Mark. You're not out of tune. You're just detuned a little bit.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, well, that's true. I'm getting more out of tune as the time goes on.
And Mark is referring to the length of his beard. Mike, why don't you tell us what's on your workbench?
Well, I moved a pipe organ when I was a kid anyway.
You have a pipe organ on your workbench?
Never mind.
Okay.
So the fact we're recording 5 days after the last episode, that not a lot of stuff happened in the last 5 days.
Shh! Don't break the fourth wall.
That being said, the Vince, my stuff landed at my clearinghouse in Niagara Falls, so I had to go through and all the EME stuff coming from Paul. Is it W2HRO? For the septum and the antenna system and the. What else has he got? The antenna rotor for my 1296. Lynn, I'm going to do 1296 EME because it seems to be guys are throwing driveway doing these, and they're working a whole pile of. They're actually making a lot of EME contacts, which is I didn't want to get into a hobby where my dollar per QSO count is measured under 100 when I've got a few parts of ham radio like that. But the goal is to leave it at the cottage for the summer under one of those portable tents, because I just need it to keep the water off it. And so the stuff's starting to arrive. And then I've got the ICOM 9700 or the flex radio with the Q5 transverter. Each one will be my 1296 exciter, depending on what I want to do. But I guess the cool part, if I leave it at the cottage, I can just take the transverter up to the cottage where the HF remote base is and set it up there in a field, and it's pretty safe. So we lost Vince.
No, we didn't lose Vince.
No, we didn't lose.
Paul
We
is
lost somebody.
We lost Paul.
Paul.
Paul shut off his video. We're all good.
Anyway, and so that bill came in, and the HST, and I managed to get it across the border, all duty free by. Oh, that looks like a telescope mount. Zero duty. Okay, great. And anyway, so for us Canadians, I use a place called Cross Border Pickup, and I do my own clearing. And it's not really hard. So I'm not at the mercy of like Vince's with UPS, where they clear stuff and decide they're going to charge them for it, for the brokerage.
Tell me to grab my ankles.
Correct.
With the size of the bill. Yeah.
Right. So last, and Mark, fill in the name for me. Last summer, who was the person that built the antenna disconnect boxes?
Oh, I don't think I ever knew their name.
So these
George
are
is the one who interacted with them.
And I apologize because these are going to get marketed. We actually looked at doing it, but it just didn't fit, I guess, our program. But they're Raspberry Pi mechanical antenna disconnect for remote bases. It's all done in 3D printing, which is good because there's nothing conductive. It's a big motor screwdriver, and it pulls the connectors apart like it should.
Oh, yeah.
And as long as you run your grounds down off each side to the common ground, you got a chance. Of course, nothing will really help a direct strike. So, but they did an amazing job with this thing. So if you ask me, I'm not going to be able to give you an answer, but I'll see if George can update the release notes before it goes out. I've got to get that in place. And it listens to lightning underground. So, if lightning strike within 30 kilometers or whatever, just automatically go and pull the feed lines apart. Yeah. I think, Lynn, as you get it, we were trying to figure out what this would sell for. It was going to be expensive to build, and I
Yeah.
kept trying to convince George, saying, "Yeah, so $1,500." I go, remote ham operators will pay that because it was going to cost us about probably
George,
$1,000.
we were looking at the cost of it, and the cost was $300 or $400, and George was saying I would have to sell it for $1,000 to make that
like
back,
that,
and he
yeah.
didn't think anybody was going to buy it at $1,000. I'm like, no, George, you will sell lots of them at $1,000.
Yeah, so
You can tell
somebody
he's
else.
always lived in California his entire life and has never had to deal with lightning.
No kidding.
So I heard from the author at Hamvention and said someone else picked it up.
Okay.
So maybe we'll see it. I apologize for not having the name handy. I could walk over and get it. It's in the other room. And then you guys were talking about 3D printing. So when there's nothing on, I am often just surfing through, Maker whatever's going, oh, I need to print that because I hate it when my printer's not printing something. And but I did build a couple of new cases for my Think Centers, which are my remote box, my go-to computer, generally for running Windows. Heck, because Raspberry Pi 5s are more expensive than used IBM Think Centers, and even i5s and i7s.
What?
Yeah.
Really? That's crazy.
Oh yeah,
It is.
It is
Yeah.
crazy. And so these little Think Centers, like I'm paying under $200. So I have two of them, Vince, running all my stuff for the Flex radios.
Oh, like
on the
an
remote.
M73 or an M93 or whatever.
Exactly, you know what they are.
Oh yeah, I have three of them
And
here.
they're more than powerful enough. So
they're
I
great
use
machines.
when I run Flex Radio Remote, I have my Maestro in front of me here in the city, but I remote desktop to Windows two Windows computers at the remote. One of them runs N1MM or WSJT or all my contesting stuff, all the normal ham radio stuff, and another one I usually is just as a backup, but it either runs a skimmer or grid tracker. And thanks to networking today, it's easy to not have everything on one computer with a noisy USB cable because we do all networking. And the other advantage is I've got a couple of people that borrow my station for contesting, and all they have to do is just remote desktop in and start N1MM, and everything's configured. I don't have to talk to them for an hour or two at their own house to get their own computer configured, and it works wonderfully. Tony, I forgot, I lent him a Maestro for the winter, so he just brings up the Maestro, logs in, and he's on the air. And
Nice.
I know it sounds more complicated than it is, but it isn't. So, but other than opening the cottage for the summer and dealing with the high water there, no serious damage. But it did result in me mounting a webcam and a ruler in the boathouse so I could see if it was going up or down, and that worked great. But that's about it. So
Not much going on at all.
just work. We
Just
released
work.
new software. Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah, 4.2.
ooh, I gotta pay attention. Mark, what's going on?
Oh, like Mike said, it's only been a few days since our last recording, so not a lot has changed. I am still building Paul's QMX, and I can't remember whether I talked about this last time, but I made the mistake of streaming the first time I sat down at the Workbench to work on it, which means now I want to stream the rest of it as well, which has increased the barrier to start working on it again. And today I finally punted. I had like half an hour before my wife was ready to leave for something we were doing, and so I sat down and started working on your QMX again without bothering to start up a stream. Also, because the quality of the stream was so terrible last time, I have started looking into what kind of gear can I get for relatively inexpensive to do a reasonable top-down view and face view and stuff like that. So I'm going to be looking into upping my YouTube stream game. And a friend of mine, unfortunately, has had to close her business. A gal named Carrie. She ran a company called Alpenglow Industries.
Oh yes.
Oh, you know Carrie?
Well, the three
You've
of us were on a
mentioned her
stream
before.
together.
Okay, it wouldn't surprise me that I've mentioned her, yeah. She has unfortunately had to close down Alpenglow.
That's
It
unfortunate.
just didn't, she wasn't able to make it work out, and she was renting this huge space in SLO and San Luis Obispo, and it just ended up being too much, and so she closed it all down. consequently, I was able to buy some of the bits from her shop from her, including a little bit of camera gear and a teleprompter. I have wanted a teleprompter for years so that I can put a screen and a camera in the same eye line for doing video calls or recording, the stuff like this or whatever. Because like right now, there's my camera, but there's Paul's face and there's Thomas's face and there's Mike's face, right? And so I can either be looking at the camera and therefore looking at the audience or looking at the screen, right? And so I've always wanted to be able to do both of those at the same time. So I have a teleprompter now.
Yeah.
I haven't actually set it up, but I have one, and I'm super excited.
Right on.
What's that?
Right on. That's cool.
Yeah. I am also prepping for my drive to Xenia. I'm going to take 6 days on the way out, and one of those days will be spent at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway because I am me, and it is the month of May, and I will be there for the second day of practice on the 13th, and I am super excited.
I really wish I could meet you there for that.
That would be fun.
You put on APRS for your drive?
I can, yeah. I've got a D700 in my car, so yeah, I'll beacon APRS.
I guess I should do the same.
You're driving down too?
Yeah.
Cool. I will be arriving probably late Wednesday night. So Wednesday is the day that I'll be at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then they close down at 6. I'll find some food somewhere. And then Beaver Creek, where our hotels are, is only about 2 hours away. So I can make it to Beaver Creek that night and sleep like the dead and wake up Thursday morning and get started setting up things and going to vendor night and all the things. But I haven't really been able to do the prep on the car yet because my daughter's car died recently. It started, check engine light came on, OBD2 reader says that we're having a misfire in one of the cylinders. We took it to the shop, and the shop is like, well, it's not happening right now. I acknowledge that the OBD2 says that this is a problem, but if it doesn't happen directly in front of me, I can't figure out what's causing the misfire.
And it won't, as long as it's there. It won't misbehave.
Of course.
It sounds like the critical needs detector is working perfectly in her car.
Yes.
Yeah. So, we took it back home. She started driving it around. It came back on again. We took it over there and blah, blah, blah. They tested some of the easy things like the coils and the spark plugs and the things like that. And they did a pressure check on the block, the engine, and it tested okay, but that doesn't mean that it actually is okay. And the mechanic suspects the most likely problem is that we have a blown head gasket.
No.
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah. And if it's just a head gasket, then that's about $4,000. If it's a head gasket and a head, that's about $7,000. If it's a head gasket, a head, and an engine block, it's $12,000. And the car's just not worth that much. Yeah. So we're looking at other cars for my daughter, and we think we have some good options that we're looking at. But the point is that she's been driving my car, which means I haven't had my car to be able to go out there and set up the radios and set up the batteries and get everything going the way I want it to be for the trip. So
Can you 3D print a car for the daughter?
You've got printers. Not with the filament I have. That's the problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll need to get the steel and aluminum filament.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I've been trying to get prepared for that, but haven't yet. And then the thing that's actually on my workbench, a friend of mine, Dan Malone, AK6DM, is the advisor for the Cal Poly Amateur Radio Club, W6BHZ. And they want to make badges for the club, but they don't want just a plastic badge with a little name engraved in it like everybody else has. They want something a little bit unique. And Dan knows about some of the electronics projects I've done in the past for making badges for things like DEF CON and for some of the work conventions I've done and whatnot. And he's like, can we do that with a radio project on it? I'm like, sure. And so I found some good AM radio receiver circuits. And there's the crystal that you can do a crystal receiver that doesn't require any power whatsoever. The problem with the crystal receiver is that you need to have really high impedance headphones to be able to hear anything. And high impedance headphones are not super common anymore. So I kind of didn't want to do the crystal. The webpage I was looking at also had a schematic for a 2-transistor regen receiver. And that is the one I think I'm going to do. So I haven't actually set cursor to KiCad yet, but I am chewing in the back of my head on how I'm going to design a badge that has space for name and call sign and a little bit of other information up at the top, and then the circuit schematic for an AM receiver, like a regen receiver, the actual outline, the board design for an AM receiver with through-hole parts that the club member can assemble themselves. And then when they have it assembled, then they have an AM receiver. You'll stick a 9-volt battery on the back and plug in your normal headphones, and you'll have an AM receiver that you can use that's in your badge, and you can say, yes, I built this.
I like that
cool.
idea.
Yeah.
For our club.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Okay. I understand.
Yeah,
let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, that's fine. One year my wife and I went to Vegas one year. It turns out we landed right in the middle of DEF CON, and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
And I saw all these people walking around with these big, huge, PC board badges that were doing stuff. And I'm like, the hell is this? And all of a sudden it occurred to me what we had just walked into. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, hopefully our electronics won't get hacked, but
you'll be fine. Your electronics.
But that was cool to see these badges and this stuff. And I
remember what year this was?
God, I don't know. 10 years ago. I think it was our 30th anniversary. So that was almost 10 years ago.
I may or may not have been there. My last one was 27. Yeah, I'd have to go look at a calendar, but I may have been there. So,
yeah.
So, yeah,
that was cool.
That plus a bunch of other work stuff that's on my workbench that I'm not going to be talking about because I learned that lesson. But that AM receiver badge idea is one that Dan had that I really like. And he was hoping that we could get the student's name and call sign like in the badge artwork itself, not like just a white section of silkscreen that you write on with a Sharpie, right? He wanted it in the circuit board. And with JLC PCB, as long as your circuit board is 100 by 100 millimeters or 4 by 4 inches or less, you can get 5 of those fabricated for $4. Mm-hmm. So it's less than $1 a piece for these circuit boards. And the fact that you have to get 5 as a minimum for each one, that's not that big of a deal. And so it's like, okay, $4 for a badge? Yeah, we can spend that. We can justify that. So we're probably going to, get all of the specific information and do up the artwork on every single badge and give the person an opportunity to customize their badge if they want to put some other artwork on it or that cool. kind of thing. And then we'll order 5 of them for every member of the club, and they'll have their own very unique badge. And of course, the club will have the KiCad file, so they, as new people join, they can go in and do that.
Sounds very pretty cool. Neat.
So, yeah, that's what's on my workbench. Let's see here.
Thomas,
yeah, I wasn't sure whether Vince was the only one left. Thomas, what's on your workbench?
Thank you, Mark. Well, so the main thing, like it has only been 5 days, right? So the main thing
really?
that is on the workbench right now actually is I finally had the time to we installed the USB-C board on my KX2. Now this is a little board that gives you a USB-C port so that you can charge your KX2 internal battery off of a USB-C, and pretty much any USB-C, power block or whatever. It is a charger, and it's bidirectional. So like it'll actually, if you've got a full battery on here, but you're logging with your phone and your phone's running out of battery, you can plug it into the radio and it'll charge your phone while you're operating, which is kind of wild. Um, this came from Neil, G7UFO, super nice guy. He sent me one really early in the game, and I think there was like a couple extra pieces he sent me then, a little 3D printed diffuser for the light that's on it. And I'll try to, in fact, while I'm talking, if I can grab a power cord, I'll show you what the light looks like for the people that are listening, and for the people that are watching, you'll just have to guess. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong way around, isn't it? But the light on it actually is pretty darn bright, and it actually is green. It's charged all the way right now, so it's green. It pulses green if it's charging. If I were to plug my phone into it, it turns blue, which means it's like sending voltage the other way. And then it has like other fault lights and things like that you can read on. It's super intelligent. It's actually not too hard to install, but I took this one over to Vlado's house because I remember what I ended up having to do is I had WinCamp side rails on this that my friend Terry had sent me. She had an extra set, and she sent them to me probably 3 or 4 years ago or something, and I put them on the radio. And I remembered it was a little bit of a pain in the butt because the KX2 has things like, the heat sink that goes up to the side rail or to the side panel. And so when you're pulling it off, you have to carefully pull off things. It just takes a little bit longer. Whereas the KX3, when I put KX side rails on it, side KX, that's what they're called, sorry.
Yeah.
Side KX, which are they're really great quality. They're easy to do on the KX3, but the KX2 just is a little more complicated. Since I was pulling that off, then taking out the Elecraft charging board and reinstalling the USB-C board, and Neil sent me the replacement side KX panel with the USB-C port on it because you need that. You have to replace out that the left side panel on the radio. Ended up just taking it over to Vlado's place because I was going over there anyway, and I was like, "Hey, let's use your workbench and do this." And the only negative when you do that is you never end up touching it because Vlado just does it so quickly. He's like, "Here, bring it here."
If only you had a Murphy bench to work on.
I know, right? Oh,
Hey-o.
yep.
We knew that was
Thank
coming.
you.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, that was going to happen. The Murphy bench will happen. It will happen in due time. But anyway, I'm excited about this because I love
It's
my
great.
KX2. I definitely use the KX2 probably more than any other radio I own. It's just kind of like, I've always said, it's like a Swiss Army knife of an HF radio. It's one of the very few radios that it's really expensive, but I would almost buy two of them. I love it so much. I've had this one since the year they were released, and it's served me really well now for 10 years. In fact, Hamvention will be sort of the 10th year anniversary of the KX2. It's really hard to believe, but it will be this year. It's also 10 years since National Parks on the Air, which I cannot believe it's been that long.
Wow, has
Oh
it
my
really?
gosh.
It has been that long since National Parks on the Air.
So that means the actual POTA program's been going on for 9. Because didn't that start up the year after they killed?
It didn't really gain traction, until like 2018, 19. I remember when I went to Hamvention in 2019, POTA met, and it was a lot of fun because like you knew everybody there. And everybody that met for POTA, and we didn't even get like an indoor space to meet at like the big those big rooms where you have the really large gatherings for the presentations and stuff. We had just had like a pop-up tent outside that we all met outside of, and we did like a little presentation. There were probably like 35 people there or something. And like now, I think like last year's Hamvention had multiple filled presentation rooms all about POTA. That's how the community has grown by orders of magnitude since then. But anyway, all this to say, the USB, going back to the USB-C charging, why this is so important is because if you're somebody who likes to take a small radio like this and travel with it, it means, and especially if you're into one bag travel or just lightweight travel, This means that you don't have to carry a separate power supply or something to charge your battery. You can just use
Yeah.
USB-C. And when you travel internationally, you're going to be able to get USB-C to your radio to charge it. You can probably do it from like the hotel room, if you really wanted to.
I
And
think it should be literally a law that all ham radios that have batteries in them
yeah,
are chargeable via USB.
it's
USB-C specifically.
Yep.
Yeah.
it's so insanely useful for that. And since I'm going to be hopefully in the UK the bulk of the summer this summer and traveling a lot and playing a lot of radio, this will come in really handy. Now I'm kind of wishing my my KH1 had that, but I think I'm just going to get I know I've got maybe an answer to that, and that's like one of the other items that's kind of on my workbench. So I get having a blog and I guess YouTube channel and stuff. I get a lot of offers from companies to try products. I probably get no fooling, probably 200 a year. It's almost every day in my inbox. There's going to be one or two offers for products. I got one this morning that was a little offensive. It was for, I always joke about my channel being the perfect cure for insomnia. And by the way, it is the perfect cure for insomnia. I got an offer from a company that makes a weighted herbal blanket so that they said it'll pair perfectly. You can tell this was written by AI for field operators that have spent a long time in the field and need to come back and get some sleep. And yeah,
You got this was spam that you got?
it was not spam. It came from a legitimate like affiliate company that I think I had worked with like ham radio prep or something at one point, and so they have my name and they were sending it out to me.
I have been getting so much obviously AI written spam. Somebody pointed an AI at my website, electronics.halibut.com,
Yeah.
and is now sending me probably 20 to 30 emails a day that make it through the rest of my spam filtering.
Yeah.
Sorry.
For
I get it
that,
too. Yeah.
that like, oh, Halibut Electronics, you want water sealed connectors for your eggnogs antennas and OHIS dealy bobs, right? Like it's just word salad of all the shit from my website squished into an AI brain and squirted at me trying to get me to click a link. And
Word salad?
word salad,
Word
man.
salad.
It
Word
is.
salad, yeah.
Yeah. In
It's-
all the worst ways.
This was like legitimate, but the thing is, I was thinking, look, my channel alone helps people sleep. They don't need the blanket at this point. We want them to wake up at some point, right? And anyway, back to this. I got, and this is probably the first company that I didn't know about that sent me something that was sent by a human. You could tell a human being wrote this because they were like, "Hey, Thomas, a few people pointed us to you. We make power delivery like PD type dongles." And quite a lot of our customers, it wasn't our intention at first, but quite a lot of them are amateur radio operators because they find it works well with their radios. We would love to send you one just to check it out. I normally don't take free things. I just don't do that. But I was really intrigued by this because it seemed like a cool system. It's a company called Werewolf. And it's pretty affordable. I mean, I could have just bought it anyway. But the cool thing about them that makes them different from other companies that they call them like PD triggers. So what it is these little power banks, and I've got quite a few of these that have PD capabilities. If you read on them, they have different voltages that they can supply, different output voltages. Like this one can do 5 volts, 9 volts, or 12 volts. This little one right here, and what you can do with this Werewolf system, this is how this one works. There are a bunch of other PD triggers out there, but they have these little tiny adapters that are no bigger than usually the end of a USB-C cable, like where the business end of the USB-C cable is, the plug. They're about that large. It's a little tiny dongle adapter thing. You hook it up to a USB-C cable. You plug it into your phone. You have to use an app because you got to have something to tell the dongle what voltage to be or what voltage to trigger. So you can tell one to be 12 volts, one to be 9 volts. You could tell one to be 48 volts. If your PD supply can supply that, it'll go up to 48 volts. And I think anywhere between 3.3 volts and 48 volts. That again is something you can find in a lot of other products. What's really cool about this one And the only reason I wanted to check it out, besides it came with this cool little box, they have when you plug in the other end of the adapter, they have a whole series of barrel connectors that fit like a wide range of radios.
Hmm.
And so you can basically turn your USB-C cable into, like a barrel connector to connect up to your QMX or your KX2 or your whatever. And
It's
they
a
even
full
have
system.
it's a whole system so that you can and you can get multiple dongles. Once you program them, you just want to label it what voltage is coming out, plug it in there, and it works really well. They even have some reverse polarity ones that are orange. Yeah, I don't think you'd ever really use that in the amateur radio world with transceivers. I don't know of a single one that's reverse polarity now, but
Well, not for very long. They all are for a
for a
microsecond.
very short
Brief
period of time. If they're
The
not,
only thing
especially
I've
if they're
seen
not
that
protected.
uses reverse polarity barrels is Japanese audio equipment.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And so it's kind of really cool. So I went out this week. I decided to pair it with a more of a legacy kind of a QRP radio. By that, I mean, it's like 16 years old or something. My 10-Tech R4020, which is a two-band QRP radio that was made, I think, originally by, what was the name of that company? U-Kits. I think it was U-Kits.
U-Kits.
Yeah.
And I've used that when I bought it for like $100 or $120 used one time, maybe 4 years ago. And so I got the right barrel connector out. I connected it up. I told it that I wanted 12 volts. It supplied exactly 12 volts and they also sent me they didn't know if I had a PD battery pack. And this one has 5,000 milliamps and it provides 5, 9, or 12 volts. Out of it. And so I set it for 12 volts. And the most amazing part is I had a decently long activation. It was probably 50, 55 minutes long. And the battery bank never showed that it actually went down even 1 bar of capacity during that time. But
Nice.
what's so cool about this again is that if you travel, right, you don't have to take like lithium iron phosphate batteries with its own charger. You don't need
Right.
separate batteries. These look normal when you go through TSA or the security line. These are things that everybody has. You can get really large PD batteries if you want to, as long as you're within the guidelines for what security wants and what the airlines allow. And so you can power your stuff for a really long time. And since it's a trigger and it's not like a bucking the voltage or doing something to it where something's switching, it's quiet. As long as your battery bank is quiet, the what's going into the radio is quiet, so it's not injecting noise or any kind of switching noises. So I'm really impressed with it so far. I'm going to see what other radios these barrel connectors fit, and they made it sound like they're going to offer even more types of barrel connectors, but they had quite a wide range that even came with the basic kind of starter pack with this.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Two things. One,
Sure.
werewolf, their wolf. There's your young Frankenstein reference.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And B, I've got the website up. The little dongle and the adapter pack one, that's like $20.
Yep, that's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
there we go.
There's
So I mean,
Raffle
that's okay. You've just cost me $20. Thank you.
Oh, I'm impressed
we
so
do.
far. I think the only negative that I've come up with, and in fact, I think it was one of my followers on Mastodon or somebody I connected to on Mastodon pointed out. I think you have to create like an account. They don't collect information from you, but on the app, when you install the app, you just put in like your email and you make a password or something just for the app. I think that's required to use it. And the only negative with that is if like, somewhere down the road, you buy more dongles or something and the company goes up and they're not there anymore or something, that could be an issue if there's not a way around that. There could be another way around it, but that's the only negative I can think of. I'm really pleased with them. I think they're kind of a cool product. So, yeah. So anyway, I took that out. I also had been playing with this little key, and I was trying to look for it here frantically before we started recording, and I couldn't find it. I had it in one of my field kits with the R4020, but it's a little 3D printed key out of Japan. that was sent to me by a Japan radio retailer that's really nice. And it's called the Toy. And it's this little tiny 3D printed, like soda-sized paddle that's really basic. And there are some distributors in the US and Canada and Europe for these, and they're not meant to be a high precision key. They're just something you can bang around. It even has like a little eyelet on it, so you can like, I guess, tie it around your neck if you want to walk around with it like a necklace. But it's cute and it works, and it was fun doing an activation with it. And my buddy Zach, his daughter Maggie, KR4FTN, who's 11 and like a whiz on CW already. I met up with them a couple weeks ago, and she actually was the first person to actually do an activation with this little key and had a blast with it. So anyway, that was kind of fun. The other big thing that has happened in my world since the last episode is I have changed my UK call. I was trying to decide if I should change my UK call sign. I think I brought it up last time. I've been bugging people about it.
This was a big discussion 5 days ago, and then you went and just did it?
I did it. Well, what happened
there's a reason.
There is a reason. There is a reason. Well, first of all, I knew by putting it in the show that it started a 2-week timer for me making a decision. But also, I think it was like probably day 3 or 4 after that. I was thinking about it, and like I woke up like in the night, I started having dreams about this with CW and everything about the call sign. And I had like these like panic. I had like a panic dream, like, oh my gosh, what are you going to do? And like, and I was thinking about it. And I did. It was so weird.
What's going to happen when it's something serious?
I know. I'm going to fall apart, man. So I was like, and what it really came down to is, if M0CYI, which has been my call for 26 years in the UK, right? But it's not that well known because I was with a smaller community of people when I was in the UK. When I lived there, I was really only there about 3 years or so with that call sign. And I've only really used it in articles I've written for Radcom. I use my UK call when I do that one. And I thought, no one's even going to know except me, probably. And so I changed it to, I had 2 choices to keep the SWL suffix. But since I started with an M, I went with M5 SWL. And I sent it a ton. I listened to it a bunch, and I think it's not going to be too hard, even though you've got like 5 dits followed by 3 dits in there. That's about the only thing. But SWL, I think, sounds like the thing it is. And I think I can probably key it so it's pretty distinctive. And I'm really excited about it. Actually, I'm really excited to have that call sign. I'm really glad I made that choice. It was a tough choice, though. Yep. So,
right on.
Hey, Thomas, I was just digging around the Werewolf site here. They have a DIY adapter. So it's got the pins to plug into the dongle.
Yes, they do.
But on the other end, there's a pair of like little lever lock push-in connectors. So if you want to wire up a thing that the little barrel connector doesn't work for, you can.
Yeah, I have one of those too. And that's really cool because it does open the door to whatever you want to, supply. And it's really, like even we were just talking with my buddy Vlado, who got my old Elecraft new charging board, because his had the original charging board, or the original board which had no charging for the KX2. He put in the new charging board, which I've only had like a year and a half or 2 years or something. And then he's traveling this summer too to Europe. And he may even be in Friedrichshafen, for those of you going to Friedrichshafen. And so he was trying to think of an easy way that he could charge it too without having to take extra stuff. And I was like, we can give you one of these with 15 volts set to it, just with the right barrel connector or something. Yeah, totally. And you can use USB-C to charge it, and if he has a brick, like a plug-in brick that can provide 15 volts, that's done then. And in fact, you could probably use that with an external power delivery battery, and it wouldn't inject any noise again into the radio while you're using it. So these are really cool. Power delivery really changed a lot in the world of like mobile and portable amateur radio.
Hey. Anything else, Thomas?
That's pretty much what's on my workbench. I'm curious what's on yours, Vince.
Well, unlike the rest of a few folks, I haven't been around for a couple of episodes. But I'll keep it short. I was cleaning up in my shack recently, and so I've just been through 2 flea markets in the province of Alberta. There was one in Calgary, and 2 weeks later, one in Edmonton, 3 hours to the north, 3 hours and 6 inches of snow late in April to the north. It was brutal, but I made it. And I was walking around my shack looking at all this stuff that maybe I haven't used for a while. Maybe I've fallen out of favor with it. Like, for example, I loved my Arrow dual band antenna, but I don't work satellites anymore, so I sold it off. Been there, done that. Had my fun. Not something I want to pursue, and I respect those that continue to pursue it. But one of those things that was kind of hanging out in my shack was a little on-air light. So this was removed from the door of a TV studio when it was getting decommissioned. And my brother sent it up to me. And I had figured it out and wired it up to be triggered, relay triggered when IPTT triggered, 2 or 3 radios ago. It hasn't been working for a while. And so one day I got the wild hair in my head that said, not that I have many left, that said, well, I wonder if the Flex has some dry contacts on it, my 6600. And it doesn't have dry contacts on it. That's something I learned. But it does have 3 independent TX trigger ports on it. And you can control the timing of these things, ostensibly used to trigger amplifiers or other things. But it's an open collector style circuit. And fortunately, when I built my prototype circuit, I put fuses on everything and I popped a fuse right away. So the Flex was still good.
I wonder how that happened.
Well, I wired it wrong. And so a couple of notes back and forth, and now I have a working, authentic on-air light that comes on when I transmit. So that hangs out
the other way
for so long.
Do you know the other way you could have done it?
Sure. What? No.
Oh, we really have to educate you. So Lynn knows. You can add a $29 8-port relay board. Right off the back, it's a FIDI parallel device. You plug it in the back of the radio, and you have 8 relays that you can set triggers to do just about anything for, including turn your on-air light on and off.
Oh, right on.
And so anyway, there's a whole bunch of cool things you can do off the back of the radio for USB, bit mapping, BCD control and stuff. And I can never remember what the board's called, but I'll send you the document.
Yeah.
For the next time.
I did see some reference to that in USB, Thomas.
Well, I was going to ask you, when you're sending QSK at 30 words a minute, is it like flashing the codes like at 30 words a minute?
No, I have my break-in timing set to 350 milliseconds, which is about right at 13 words a minute, which is where I'm rag chewing in the evenings. It drops off in between words, but not characters.
Okay.
So no, it's not cool. It's not flashing like a rave or anything.
It doesn't give you give you seizures or something.
No, nothing like
when you're doing that. Okay.
But that was a fun little project anyway to get going and repurpose an old Potter Brumfeld relay I had kicking around. Hey,
that's
next
overkill.
It's totally overkill, but it's what I had to work with, right? So
I get it. I really do.
Last time I was here, I was talking about some of the trials and tribulations of remoting into my Flex. And I made Mark gasp when I said I lowered my MTU to 340 bytes, and it finally started working.
Oh, yeah.
So
I twitched at that one.
Okay, you all twitched at that one, and I think some of you had to change your shorts because you're so upset about it. But that led me to continue to do some troubleshooting with it. And I realized that there was one parameter in Smart SDR from Mac that I hadn't played around with. And that is fixed MTU on the client. And so I fixed my MTU at just under 1,500 bytes.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, everything's stable.
Yep. So
all that jacking around I did simply because I'd forgotten about MTU, which I learned about 35 years ago from 3Com when I did that education in the World Trade Centers. In the early 1980s, or the late 1980s, I mean. When
you know how to test your part number 2. There's a way to test your maximum NTU. So
Yeah.
you have to go into command prompt and boom, boom.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, that got fixed. So and thank you to those folks that were sending me emails about that too. Hey, so with the flea markets, I am pleased to announce that I have reduced my radio fleet by 14 radios. So you may have heard me say that I got out of the repeater game, and with the repeater game, there's 4 radios right there and 2 controllers and cavities and all the rest. But there were a whole pile of spare radios that went with it. So they all sold off at the flea market. And so now I no longer count 3 dozen radios in my fleet, but somewhere between 1 and 2, which is not bad. And almost none of them are VHF, UHF. So that's equally impressive to me.
Wait, is he allowed to still stay here?
Yeah, he is, because Thomas makes up for the difference.
Good point.
For
it
all,
kind of balances
for all
out.
of us, I think.
Well, we know that we all know that Vince is just clearing space.
Yeah, well, Vince did clear space because
get more radios that he wants.
So in Calgary, I didn't spend a dime. I was very proud of myself. But in Edmonton, I bought a radio, and I'm now going to hold it up to the camera. And this is an SI 4732 based shortwave receiver. You can find these on AliExpress for
I keep seeing ads
$35
on
and $40
Reddit and Instagram and stuff. Yeah,
it's USB-C chargeable. It's actually a decent, okay little radio receiver. It'll be great for running around and looking for noise. And, we all have noise in our house, but the size of the damn thing, it fits in the palm of my hand. So, these SI 4732s are sold under a variety of names, ATS20 and a few other things on Amazon and on AliExpress. What I'm really impressed with is the quality of the screen and how responsive it is. So there's an ESP32 in it and the SI 4732 and 6 other active parts, and that's it. Like the parts count on these things are insanely low. That's because there's no front end. Of course not.
Aren't they only like $50 American?
Yep, they are. So I got it for 10 Canadian dollars. So about
you go.
7 US. I did good on the bargain side.
You did good.
I did good. Related to that, kind of related to that, on my bench, I don't know about you guys. Have you noticed, y'all carry cans of compressed air in your shop, right? Have you noticed in the past 3 or 4?
I do not.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
But go on.
Compressor.
So, okay, that's an interesting point. So what I like about a can of compressed air is you can turn it upside down and squeeze it with your pinky, and you get cold air out of it, which is good for troubleshooting components that might be overheating to figure out which one it is. But what I was finding was the cost of compressed air cans has gone through the roof in the past 2 or 3 years. And even a 6-pack of these cans used to be $10 5 years ago. Up here, they're now $30 and $40 for a 6-pack of cans, which is insane, no matter where I buy them. And I was at my one of my parts wholesalers in town, and the name MG Chemicals is very familiar to any Canadian electronic person. They make they sell all kinds of chemicals for your bench, photoresist, isopropyl alcohol, all the stuff you might need for your electronics bench. MG Chemicals. Well, they make a tool called the 402E, and the 402E is a USB chargeable compressed air widget that you turn it on and you've got compressed air. And it'll run for a couple hours at high speed. Mark?
I don't have that exact one, but I have one very similar to it.
Yeah.
Some random 5-lettered Amazon brand.
Yeah.
It does so much better than cans of compressed air do. And
Totally.
it's not nearly as wasteful.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm down to 1 can remaining in my fleet, and I think I'm going to leave that can out in the garage, which means it'll be slowly consumed, and this has now taken over prime billing on my desk. Now, what I didn't like about it was the straw that came with it was 3 inches long and about a 1/2 inch wide, and it didn't blow nearly as quickly the air as a can of compressed air would. So I went into Tinkercad and I drew up a straw on screen, a cone, and I printed it out, and for some reason my slicer only printed out 60% of it, but that was enough to get the opening on the tip of the straw down to about 1/4 of an inch. So the air actually comes out at a reasonably quick rate.
Cool.
So that was fun. And then lastly, HF Signals has released the ZBitX version 2. So that was released on the 23rd of April, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. So I'm super excited about that because, as you all know, I was a huge fan of the ZBitX, and I could never get mine to work quite right. I love the concept of it. Kind of a Swiss Army knife radio, under a few $100 US, purported to do everything. There were some early issues with it, with the CW timing, and Asher Farhan worked, quite a lot to get that fixed. There were some noise issues. There was a lack of reverse polarity. So the circuit board traces became the fuse. And so there were a number of acknowledged issues. In the case of mine, I could live with those shortcomings, but the FT8, the transmitter would come on, and 1.8 seconds later, the audio would come out. And this was consistent, and that would make me look like I was out of sync to the rest of the world. And the clock was fully synchronized. So it was with some excitement. I got an email from a buddy of mine. Dave was down at Hamvention last year, and I walked him over and introduced him to Asher, and he bought a radio. And he says, "Vince, do you think there will be any of the V2s at Hamvention?" That's how I first heard about it. I immediately ordered one. And they're allegedly shipping now. I haven't received a shipment notification yet. But what I'm really excited about is the RF final stage has been changed to LDMOS instead of IRF 510s. The radio is physically larger, about 3/4 of an inch or an inch, I think, longer now the case is, or wider, whatever. Built-in in-fed half-wave transformer, reverse polarity protection, and really responsive CW. And they're doing that by getting rid of the I2C bus between the screen and the main microprocessor. So the architecture of the version 1 ZBit was a Pi 0W driving a Pi Pico on I2C, and the Pi Pico was doing the screen I/O. And you could hear those screen I/O writes. And if you turned it down, the amount of screen noise you got through the speaker was reduced. So you knew where it was coming from. And Asher has redesigned that Pico by using a Pico W. And now all the screen I/O goes across Wi-Fi between the two. And so this has removed that screen I/O noise. The other thing that removing I2C has done from it, according to notes I've seen on the forum, is the interrupt handling of CW. So now CW is far more responsive. CW is getting bogged down by those I2C updates. Anyway, can you tell I'm super excited? I had like 6 videos that I did on this radio. I so much loved it, and I really hated to sell it, but I wasn't going to hang on to it if it wasn't everything I wanted it to be. And it's got a new home now, and it's happy in its new home. But I'm going to be welcoming this one with open arms, Mark.
I loved Asher Farhan's earlier radios. Just absolutely adore my BitX40 and the was it the Micro BitX, the UBitX, and they're just wonderful, simple, easy to understand, hackable radios.
Yep.
Right? They're not going to outperform a Flex anytime soon, but they're just incredibly well built. And so I was one of the first people to sign up for ZBitX when they were announced. And I got that hardware, and I was so disappointed with it. And I don't want to sit here and talk smack about Asher because he's doing wonderful things for the hobby.
Absolutely.
But the ZBitX is not a good radio. And I am glad to hear that he is like, okay, we've learned from some mistakes. Let's go improve things and do this again. And I'm glad that that's happening because I know he is capable of doing some amazing things.
For sure.
And I think that one, it feels like ZBitX 1, like he got pressured to release it in time for Hamvention, whatever year that was, 2 years ago or last year, I can't remember. And didn't have time to really finish it. It's what it feels like. I don't know whether that's actually the case, but it kind of feels like that. So I am very interested to hear what you think about the ZBit X2 when you get it and get a chance to play with it.
As soon as I get it, I will once again be releasing a series of videos. People found that little video series that I released, I was blown away. Like 4,000 people watched me open the box with the ZBit X. I guess I got one of the first ones or something. I swore I'd never do a box opening video, but I kowtowed to the click monster on YouTube.
Yeah.
No, when I opened the Aurora box, the same thing happened.
Yeah.
Like 5,000 people on it. Okay.
Hey, Vince, you had that last year, didn't you, at Hamvention? Is that the little radio in the plastic case that you were carrying around?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the one with the yellow faceplate. I printed a custom faceplate for it. Yep. And I'll do that again this time, and now I even have a better printer. So Asher, if you're listening, I'm super excited to get my radio, and as soon as you post the STL files, I'll post the revised cover on a much better printer, and then Joshua N5FY won't say, Vince, I recognized your cover because of the quality of your old printer, like he did to me last year. That was kind of funny.
Well, there's a picture of the ZBit X.
Yep.
You can get it there.
Yeah.
So.
That looks like the knob I designed for it. That's not the factory knob.
Oh, that's just a AliExpress knob that I use on all my CTR bogs.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Right. On.
Yeah. Yep. It
We're
occupies
pulling out our ZBit X's.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a cover I printed for Mark.
Yep.
He printed me one too.
Right. It's in the factory cover. So.
Yeah.
And I got an SBit X2 that runs my what do you call it? Open ham clock.
Yeah.
No. Nice.
Yeah, right on. Well, very good. So, hey, that's what I've got on my bench. And at this point, we're going to take a break, pause for the cause, as they say. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. So, Lynn, I was today years old when I learned what CTR stands for. Because I own your product. I have a CTR2 Duo.
Yeah.
And Paul was the bad influence on me for that. And your website actually introduced me to Neil G7 UFO, and I have one of the USB-C charger boards that he sells that Manuel designed. And so, it's kind of funny how we all meet each other, sort of.
Everything's kind of interconnected, and that's what is really neat about the ham community is,
for sure,
is we're kind of a body of like-minded souls,
Yeah.
Everybody has their thing they like to do along with everybody else, and we share our capabilities.
For sure.
And that's kind of what I look at with Lynovation is it's my contribution back to a society that shaped my life and really gave me direction to do the things that I've done in my life that I probably would never have done if I wouldn't have found ham radio back when I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
So that's what this is. And, once you retire, you end up with a lot of time on your hands. And, I said, like I told my wife, I said, well, I can sit and watch TV and drink beer if you want. No, just go and do your thing. so that gives me the permission to do what I want to do. And
starting your own company is a really good way to solve the problem of having too much time on your hand.
And that's true. Once you make the decision that, I better probably turn this into an LLC because I don't want to get sued and lose everything I got because I did something stupid. Let the LLC take the hit. But so far, I've not been sued or anything like that. But once you make that commitment, now you've got customers, you've got things that you need to be available for. But I just probably like you guys and most people that do this kind of stuff, it's the end-to-end journey that is really the fun part. Yeah. It's the coming up with an idea that nobody else is doing. Yeah. And then using somehow you cook that in your little brain and it pops out down on a piece of paper and then it jumps into KiCad and then pretty much you've got something in your hand that does something that nobody else has seen before. It's there because you wanted to do it.
Have you ever created a product based on a dare?
Oh, there's got to be a reason behind this question, Mark. I'm interested.
Yeah.
That's where Halaki came from. Basically, Mike came up to me and said, "How hard would it be to do blah?" And yeah, so I was curious whether you've ever had that experience of.
No, I don't. Not that I can remember. I
Okay.
pretty much just follow my own trail.
Yeah.
You know, I've done that my whole career, even when I was back in my early days when I was a contact. You know, I'd design things to make my job easier, and all the other techs would go, "Well, that's really cool. Can I have one?" And it's like, so now we start building stuff for everybody else, and it was just kind of fun to do that, to share your talent.
Then that brings up the question: did you start doing what you're doing now because it was a thing that you wanted for you, or did somebody ask you, "Hey, can you come up with this"?
No, it's pretty much what I wanted to do. Back in 2001, I bought a FT817 and it had this little cat board on the back of it. And I really didn't like the dials and stuff tuning that little thing because the display was pretty small. And I thought, I need something that I can tune remotely and have a bigger display so I can do that. So actually back then I developed a Pocket PC program that I called CTR, which control the radio. I call it CTR 718. And I did develop that, and I actually published it online. I can't remember which forum I was on, but I published it online on September 8th of 2001. Which, you know, of course, 3 days later, nobody cared about what I was doing.
Yeah.
And you know, but it was an interesting experience, and I actually developed a little Bluetooth dongle, which
that's
I have here.
The Blue Link.
Yeah, this is my little Blue Link, and that was, you know, a little tiny box. It's only maybe an inch and a quarter by maybe 2 inches square, and it plugs into the little cat port on the FT817, and it basically turns that little cat port into a Bluetooth link that would connect to my little Pocket PC, and I developed a little program that would talk to the FT18, and that worked pretty good. And that's where it all started. And really, the things I'm doing now, 25 years later, are all based on a lot of the code that I developed back then. At least some of my stuff, my CTR2 micro that does cat control for a lot of different radios is based on that code that I wrote 25 years ago. And so it's kind of fun just to kind of recycle things and fine tune them and make it the kinds of things that I want it to be. And I've listened to my users too. They suggest things all the time. Like, what can I do this? And they thought, I don't know. I never thought of that. You know, sure, I can do that. So it's like the old farmhouse. It just keeps getting expanded and bigger and bigger. And you know, so that's kind of what I enjoy about it, is it's never really done. None of my projects are ever really done. Some of my users get frustrated with me because I'll send out a new update and it's like, oh crap, it's such a pain in the butt to update these things. You know, but now we've got a new tool that's a web connected or a browser based tool that makes it a lot easier to flash ESPs.
I have to thank you for finding that and updating the firmware to the point where now I don't have to open it up and try to poke the little, but that was a game changer.
Yeah.
Because I mean, for this, I you know, I'm a fan. I have an assortment. I started out with the CTR2 MIDI, and then I got the CTR2 dial because that thing is just so freaking cool.
Yeah.
And then when you brought out the new one, I now have,
that's what that is.
I now have the quad in the little custom printed box that fits nicely in the suitcase. So I have them all, and the ability to program them without having to open them up and poke that little thing is awesome.
I agree. That's just a goofy thing. So
you're using ESP32 platform, is that right?
Yeah, ESP32 S3 is the one I'm using. Most of them, I use the C3 on the old micro, but I found the S3 is a totally different processor. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So,
the S series are the Extensia, the old school Extensia processors, and the C's are RISC-V.
Yeah, and I used the little seed Seed Studios, Zio SP or ESP32s, little postage stamp size guys, you know.
So
They're
you're
just
putting that
tiny.
module down on the board rather than going down to the individual chip.
Right. And I
Okay.
put the whole module in. I just put it on pins and soldered in. It's just a lot easier for me.
Okay.
So, but
So
anyway,
doesn't the M5 stack have that ESP in it?
yeah,
Built
it
in,
uses, yep, the SPS,
That's what I thought.
the S3. And they call it a stamp S3. Basically, it's the same thing, but they have so much capability. Like Marcus,
Stupid powerful.
the guy that's running remote TX, got a hold of me and said, "Hey, can this thing do HID?" And I thought, I don't know, I've never looked. And so I started looking it up, and sure enough, along with doing MIDI and USB, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi, the thing also does HID. So I put a little bit of code in there to kind of rob from my MIDI controller into HID code. And now it just connects to his browser interface on Remote TX. And that has actually been pushed off into another product. Let me find my list right here.
So
go ahead.
We may go into inside baseball here, so pull us back if we start getting too technical. So okay. First off, are you using Tiny USB or a different library?
Yeah, Tiny USB.
Tiny USB, okay. And you have defined your own HID protocol to go between your hardware and the browser?
I didn't define it. There's a part of Tiny USB has that built in.
Well, so, yeah, but that just gives you a byte. You know, you can send bytes back and forth. What's the application layer?
Yeah, basically we set up a HID report, and that's what it sends out. And what it does is it just listens to the MIDI stream, and when I'm sending a MIDI command out, it just mimics that and sends those 3 MIDI bytes on HID at the same time. So you don't have to do anything. You just turn on the browser, and I go to remotetx.net. And
is there a reason they didn't want to do MIDI instead of HID?
There's actually an issue on browser on the web MIDI that they use. Google developed these. They're still kind of in Google's experimental beta unit test. Anyway, web MIDI has a problem where when you refresh the browser page, it'll lose the connection to the remote device, which is kind of you can work around that, but it's painful. But if you use Web HID, that connection stays there through all the refreshes and things that web browsers do. So,
what was that web tool you were talking about?
The
Remote TX?
Oh yeah, remotetx.net. And Marcus has run it for quite a few years, and it basically runs on a Raspberry Pi, and you can connect to it. Gives you remote access to ICOM radios and a couple of Yaesu radios. So, but anyway, he added that to his program, and I've got another one. Let me find the one that I've been working with. Okay, online radio or onlineremote-radio.com is a new Flex remote application. It also runs on a Raspberry Pi at your station, and it connects through the browser. And
that's different than remote ham radio?
Yeah. Remote ham radio is using MIDI that I work with them, but onlineremote-radio.com is being developed by K7GFH. And if you go there, it's still kind of in early stages, but it allows you to have multiple users, and you have administrative control over who has access to your radio. And, like I said, he's just getting it ironed out now to where it's functioning. He's still working on a lot of the administrative stuff.
Interesting.
But it looks like it's going to be a pretty interesting application. And so he's integrated HID into that too. So
are you willing to publish that HID or like the protocol?
Well, like I said, all I'm doing is putting the report together, as far as the structure of the report. What I do when I send out when a unit when my unit connects to the USB port, this is what it tells it, the USB, that it's capable of doing. So it's sending that report out to the structure for its output. It's just an 8-bit report that it sends. And that's what, I don't know all the details behind the HID and Web HID and how they integrate that into the browser, but it has to run on a Chrome-based browser. That's the only ones that support it. So you have Chrome and Chromium and Opera, and I think Edge also is supported. And the nice thing about it, it's totally transparent. There's no mapping. The user doesn't have to go in and map points that he wants to control. It's just pre-mapped. You connect to it and you're there. So anyway, that's one of the things we're working on.
So let's pull it back a couple levels. We've thrown around a whole pile of TLAs. TLAs and FLAs. No, and that's okay. When I bought the product, Lynn, I was a neophyte. So my buddy down the street, Dan, lives 926 feet from me, and listeners of the show understand the reference. He had a CTR dial, and he just recently bought a quad after seeing the Duo that I had on my desk. And so I understand enough about rig control that I understand what CAT is. And I'm a serial guy from way back, RS-232, and the others that we were using in the factories and such. So I get CAT, and I understand MIDI a little bit, musical instrument device interface.
Digital
interface. Thank you. So I thought I understood it. That's okay.
Just call it MIDI.
MIDI. Good enough.
Well, no, I do want to explain what the acronym is for our listeners, though. And so step us through kind of the evolution of your products. You started off doing serial over Bluetooth with BlueLink.
Yeah.
And then you moved into the world of CAT, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, step us through that
progression. Well, yeah, because basically that's what the radio world has done. You know, they started this serial CAT control, and in the old days, I have a TS680. You had to buy a separate board just to get CAT, just to get the serial port. Then you had to buy another board just to get the RS-232, so you could talk to the radio, and you couldn't do much once you did that anyway. But
and they weren't cheap.
Yeah, they weren't cheap.
It was like $100, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I bought the serial board, but I never sprang for the RS-232 board. But my boxes can do TTL, so it works just fine.
That's $500 in today's money.
Yeah,
right.
And you know what ham stands for? I think there's actually two references to what HAM means.
No.
You've never heard?
No, go ahead.
When in my working career, we did a lot of mountaintop radios and repeaters and commercial radio. And, as we were working with the hams that had shared access to the sites, we're always fighting them, not really fighting them, but twisting their arms to get the right filtering and, the stuff on their radios so they didn't interfere with the rest of us on the site. And one of the engineers that I worked with said, well, you know what ham means? And I said, no. He says, haven't any money.
So I've never heard that. That's great.
But after listening to your podcast here, I decided there's probably another group of hams, and Mike knows them really well, and they're the ones they have all the money. So they're the ones that have the superstations, which is great because the ham radio covers such a broad range. From people that are just getting in and don't have a lot of money to spend, you can get a small QRP rig or whatever and have a ball. Or you can spend the megabucks and buy a superstation if that's what you want to do. And so anyway, that's kind of a sidetrack, but now I lost my train of thought. But as far as what we do, I started out with CAT control. That's what my CTR 817 did. And then I added the ability to do different protocols. So I, got into the other Yaesu protocols. And at the time, Yaesu has 6 or 7 different CAT protocols. And every radio had a different protocol, which was really painful. Then ICOM come up with the CIV, and then, of course, we went through that whole thing, and that's what the market I serviced. And then everybody started coming out with USB, which is insanely complex.
At least Kenwood's was pretty much generic across
Yeah,
every radio.
Kenwood's was a great, it still is a great protocol, partially because it's text based, it's not bit based, and so it's way easier to interface to the real world with it. And a lot of other radios have adopted it, and so it really works well, and it's easy to tweak. You know, if I'm talking to a K4, there's just a few things that are different on a K4 than if I'm talking to a Kenwood. And so anyway, so that's what that did. So after I retired, where I worked with the utility as a communications tech and a manager for a utility, we operated in 7 states, and our dispatch, we had 2 separate dispatch centers. And all the dispatch centers could control all the base stations. We had 160 VHF base stations. And so both dispatch centers could just push a button and pick any one of the radios that they needed to talk to a crew on, and they're connected through our microwave system. And it really, you know, it was a fun system to work on. After I retired, I thought, well, I want to do something like that. You know, I had 9 or 10 radios, and so I started down the rabbit hole of how do we control that many radios? And so my first project was what I call CTR2, because it controls the radio and a lot of other things. So the 2 means also. So what I did is I built my own, I don't know if you can see this. Oh, get it in the camera. This is my
stack of Raspberry Pis.
Oh no. This is a Teensy 4.0.
Oh,
or
okay.
Not a Teensy. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. It's a Teensy. But anyway, it's got the audio board in it. This thing can do just about anything. And it has a remote display. Let me see if I can get that on camera here. This is a little remote display. So this is my first go at a new radio controller after I retired, when I had a lot of time to spend. So this is a touch screen, and it, you know, it's just a little tiny acrylic thing, and it runs on a serial port back to this guy. And this guy has multiple boards, and I don't know if you can see in there, but there's relay boards, there's all kinds of option boards. But this thing does audio, it does RTTY, it does CW. It has these boards up on the upper stack or antenna switches, so it can actually control an antenna switch, to switch a single antenna between multiple radios, and then the secondary antenna switch can select multiple antennas to feed to the other antenna switch. So I had multiple antennas, and I can switch any one of them to any one of the radios just by selecting that radio on the touchpad. So it did what our dispatchers could do. I could push a button on my pad, and my flex radio is online, and I could say I wanted to be on this other antenna, so I'm on the other antenna. So it was all ran through this little matrix of relays and antenna switches and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of fun, and I actually got that published in QEX back in, I think, 2021. They run 2 articles in QEX on it. And, you know, I had big plans. I'm going to build these and sell them. Luckily, I only sold one because they were very painful to build. It took me about 10 hours to build one. And you just can't sell them. I mean, you can't build them and take that much time and then actually sell them and make any money at all. Because it's just, nobody wants something like that. But for me, it was a learning experience. But it all runs on CAT, and it also does Flex API, but it all runs on the old CAT program, the serial stuff. So after that came out, I got all geared up I had 10 units all built up, ready to mail out. When people ordered them, I had one guy order one. And to this day, I still feel guilty that he actually bought it. And it works, but you know, it just wasn't something everybody else wanted. There's the haven't any monies, and they're having all the monies. And I try to cater to the in-between people that have some money. So, but anyway, so after I built that, I thought, well, I got to come out with something that people can afford. So that was the next step in my evolution, was this little guy here. And yeah, okay. This is called a CTR2 Mini, MINI. And so it's basically uses a C terminal, or I can't remember, a YO terminal. And so then it's got 6 push buttons for different functions and the tuning knob. And so that also is a serial-based device. But it can actually...
Yeah, I think it's support for radios, right? I think I have one of those.
I think you do.
Yeah.
And I sold quite a few of them, actually. And those are a little better because they only took 2 hours to build. But, but still 2 hours of sitting at a bench soldering to build, one product that you're selling for $130, $140.
Yeah.
As, you go, this probably isn't worthwhile.
That's bad math right there. Yeah.
Well, I enjoy building. I'm a tech at heart, and when I'm at the solder station, that's my nirvana. That's my happy place. But anyway, after you build a few of them, I sold, I don't know, 50 or 60 of those guys, maybe more. And they've worked, and but I haven't had time to go back and update the firmware. They still have a few bugs that I haven't worked out. But anyway, that brought my big station controller, my tall box, down into a small, and I have options on it where it can actually control 16 different radios. I have a little multiplexer that you can plug it into, and they daisy chain out to where you can still control 16 different radios. And I have the antenna switches that are daisy chain in there, so I could still control. I basically made a distributed system of my big box, so you could buy what you needed. And that kind of turned out okay, but still it wasn't really what I'd hoped it to be. So, but along the way, I did build my
SO2R.
Yeah, SO2R controller that interfaced 2 of my mini boxes into 2 different radios, and you could select which radio you want to transmit and all that kind of stuff. That one never sold anything, so that was also ran. It was a learning experience. So anyway, after all that, that's when I decided to see what can I do to build a controller that didn't cost an arm and a leg and didn't take me 2 hours to build, and something I could sell. And Mike still remembers telling me how to price it, and I never believed him. I never did. But anyway, that's when this little guy came up. This is my CTR2
sorry,
micro.
all you people.
You could have paid $100 for this if I would listen to Mike.
I tried $99. You can yell at me now, but I in all seriousness, no, Lynn was giving away his time, like Mark has learned. And if you've run your own business, it's labor of love, right?
Exactly. And that's, to me, just the opportunity to do something that people find valuable and people say, that's really cool, I want one of those, is worth it to give them away for free, except I can't afford to buy the parts to give them away for free. So I started out charging just a little bit more than what the parts cost. And then over the last few years, of course, parts have doubled in price, and now we have tariffs and we have all these other things. So the cost has gone up a little bit.
What did I say? Let's sell it for $99 and put it on sale for $59. I think what I said. That way it was easy to go back up if you had to.
Yeah, you can always go down, but it's hard to go back up. So, but anyway, that one incorporates all the stuff and runs basically the same code as all the other bigger boxes do. But it was meant to get rid of the display. And in this one, you have to actually run a terminal program to connect to it so you can see what it's doing. And that actually worked out good, and that was pretty popular. So, but then I had a couple of blind hams talk to me about, well, this is great, but we can't, even without a display, we don't know what it's doing because we can't see the terminal. And if they use their readers on the terminal, then the terminal is not really user friendly for blind operators. So that came the next stage, and that's what this guy does. It's kind of hard to see, but This is a
Well, that's
little
the
voice
CTR2
synthesizer.
voice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this guy interfaces to CTR2 micro through Wi-Fi. It actually can be its own access point, so you can run without a Wi-Fi network, or it can be a Wi-Fi station and connect to your Wi-Fi station. But it interfaces to the micro, so you can actually have it. The micro will send reports. Actually, you'll send a report on CW, so you can use the micro and just listen to CW prompts. But most people don't want to do that. But the voice, you plug it into a speaker. I've got over here plugged in. As I tune the radio, it'll wait a second and it'll repeat the frequency you're on. Kind of like the, I think it's the Kenwood.
I was going to say the Kenwood, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember whatever it is, the last one that's not a digital radio.
That's
they had the voice synthesizer in that. So it kind of worked that way. And there was quite a few amps that needed that option, and I still sell it. I don't sell a lot of them, but it's still out there. It does have an odd Chinese English accent to the synthesizer, and you get used to it. But anyway, that kind of was my attempt to boil it down to the very essentials that you needed to operate. And so then, and that worked out pretty good, and I've sold quite a lot of those. And then one of my users one day said, well, gee, this is nice, but can you get it to talk to Marcus's Smart SDR for iOS program? I said, I don't know. I've never looked at his programs. And I never did anything after that. And I got an email back from this user, and he says, I've talked to Marcus, and he says, if you do this, you can talk to his program. So I looked at it, and Marcus said, well, I support MIDI. And that's when I said, what's MIDI? I have no idea. And so I looked at it. He sent me kind of a little outline of how he does it. And I thought, well, that's pretty simple. So that way I sat down to work and pretty much rewrote the program and came up with the CTR2 MIDI, which is the same size as the micro, 60 by 60 millimeters. And it's about an inch and a half tall at the top of the knob, maybe an inch and a quarter. But anyway, it's just a really small box, and the firmware for that was really straightforward and pretty easy to work. I've spent thousands of hours getting the CAT software to work to do what I wanted, but the MIDI software came together really fast, and within probably a couple of weeks, I had something for Marcus to test with, and that worked out just super good. And Marcus puts it in his manual, and people can link to it off his website, and that's really driven the business quite a bit. I've sold probably 1,000 of those little guys. And I've built every one of them. I build everything I build, or everything I sell, I build myself. So I spend a lot of time on my workbench. That's why my flux vapor extractor is so important.
Now, Lynn, you have all those grandkids. Like, couldn't you put them to work somehow?
Like labor.
My buddy Joshua N5FY, who we were talking about earlier, he started a company. He works full time. He started a company, and it just turned into like a family business. Like his wife and his wife pretty much runs all of that now. At least she does a whole lot of the work. And I think you need to adopt a policy like that. Get some family employees.
I do have some. We moved back down here. We live in Utah. We moved here because we have 3 of our kids live here. We have 5 kids total, and 2 of them live right close to us, so within 20 minutes away. In fact, we have a birthday to go down to tomorrow, and we had a preschool graduation last night, so we're close enough that we can. And these are the smaller kids, which is, kind of really important. Our older kids, their kids are grown now, live up in Idaho and down around Oregon, and so they're scattered all over. But I do have my daughter. She has the bamboo printer, so she prints my 3D boxes for me. And her kids are teenagers, but none of them are interested in electronics. None of them want to learn how to solder. I'm not sure I wanted to let them learn how to solder on these boxes. And, to me, it's more of I feel more connected to them because I build them. They were something in the back of my mind that I wanted to do, and now they're here, and now I'm creating them. I'm taking a handful of parts. Mark knows exactly.
Oh yeah.
What that's like is you have a handful of dead parts that don't have any purpose, and you turn them into its device that has a mind of its own and it functions, and you're creating something that just doesn't exist, and all of a sudden it's a thing.
And when I got my unit a few months ago now, I was delighted to see a handwritten or a note with some handwriting on it, and I flipped it over and there's a sticker with handwriting on it. This is licensed to VE6LK, and it was heartwarming to see that personal touch. To me,
and kind of the side story of that, the reason I do that, well, partly is because every unit has a unique MIDI or Bluetooth ID, and that's CTR2 _ XXXX, which is the last 4 digits of the unit's MAC address. And I had to do that because otherwise in Marcus's program, if I have 2 CTR2 MIDIs running, his program can't figure out which one to connect to. So where they have their own unique Bluetooth name or ID, his program can figure out, I'm going to connect to that one.
All right.
Anyway,
so that answers one of the questions I was going to ask you, or I didn't think to ask you, but I'm running into that doing MIDI over USB to an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you have 2 devices that have the same name, they clobber each other and you can't select them. Okay, got it. I see what you're doing. Thank you.
So what you have to do is your firmware has to pull the MAC address out of the unit, so you come up with some other way to give it a unique name.
Yeah.
So, and you can randomize it and do that. So
Mark,
anyway.
this whole presentation tonight is now worthwhile, even more.
Yes,
so, right?
It just paid for itself. Thank you.
I'll send you the bill.
Sounds good.
So I just went and picked up my CTR2 MIDI. It says COM blank, but that's okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And my CTR2 dial with your handwriting.
Yeah.
And then the other one's up at the cottage, but I know exactly where it is.
Well, I'll give you the backstory of why I registered the firmware is because if you remember this little guy that I showed you earlier, okay, I can go on
link.
I can go on Alibaba or AliExpress, and I can buy that for $10 now. When I was building these, just the Bluetooth module costs $70. So, but they basically cloned it. What I was doing, you can buy that and it plugs right into a AC radio. So, which is fine. I have a lot of respect for what the Chinese can do. A lot of it is, taking other people's ideas. But anyway, the backstory on why I have a registration key is because I didn't want to have my quad or my Duo or Uno show up in AliExpress for $10.
Well, Flex Radio was worried about that. That the whole radio would show up.
Well, you have a lot of time. I mean, I have thousands of hours into the software on these guys to get it to be just right. And people, writing a software program is about 20% of the time. The other 80% of the time is getting it to do what you wanted to do in the first place, because it never. Unless you're using Claude, which kind of scares me now. But anyway, so that's what the registration key.
The other 80% of that 20 cent is protecting the software from killing itself.
With Claude. Or going through line by line on the source code to make sure that it's not doing something like that. So, but anyway, it's a new age we live in. But to me, I like the hands-on. I like to know exactly why it does what it does. And,
we talked a little bit about this on the last episode that hasn't dropped yet.
Just a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what it is. So.
And cool. And somewhere along the way, I see this M5 stack, and I'm not a microprocessor guy. I can barely spell microprocessor. And usually when I hook them up, they smell. As a matter of fact, 'cause, the whole reverse polarity thing. So I clearly don't know what I'm doing. And that's okay. That's kind of ironic because I'm an IT guy, but I'm clearly not a coder,
Yeah.
So how did M5 come into your Linus site and get integrated into the product line? What grabbed your attention there?
I think with M5, what I was doing is I had the CTR2 MIDI, which is great, but it's really limited. It can do 8 different encoder modes or functions. It can do 12 different button functions. And I wanted to do something with more functionality. And so I needed a display. And so I looked around and I really was I wanted to have a round knob with the tuning ring on it, like the M5. And so I looked at a bunch of different ones that are out there on the market, and the M5 just seemed to have everything I wanted. And it's really a well-built little unit. And it's kind of expensive, especially the time I pay for tariffs and pay for shipping and get it to me. They're pretty pricey, but they work really well. And I've only had one come back for repair. And it was something that was wrong with the M5 dial, which puts me in a bad spot because I sold the unit to the guy. But how do I get the M5 dial? I can't fix it. I have to replace it. So, M5 Stack is not going to send me a new dial because I said, hey, this one's bad. So maybe they would. I just never asked. So, but I did go back to Mauser and say, hey, I got this unit that doesn't work. And they actually did send me a new unit. But anyway, that was just one that I found that looked like it would work well. And so I got it and started playing with it. And sure enough, my code worked compiled on it after I used their M5 Stack library. And so I had to, write code to drive the display and get it. And really, I guess I'm kind of a minimalist at heart. I like to have the very minimum amount that I need to operate. It was like that when I started out in ham radio. And in high school, I had a 800 watt amplifier, homebrew amplifier, had a tower in the side yard with a quad antenna on it. I could key that thing up. It kept tripping the 20 amp breakers to my bedroom. So I had to tune it down, but I could key that thing up. I could point that quad anywhere and talk to anybody in the world. And that was fun for a little while, but eventually I got tired of it and I started hooking up had an HW7, Heathkit HW7. So I hooked that up to my quad, and that was a more challenging because people couldn't hear me and I couldn't hear them. And that, I've always liked to use the minimum amount to get the job done, so, sure. But anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at. And the M5 dial was just a way to find the display that was fairly easy to work with. And the orange, I wasn't a fan of the orange to start with. And
I think it's awesome.
Yeah. But, once I kind of got into it and I found some knobs that have little orange knob markers on them now that I use on my quad. And that's like this guy here and my little orange knobs.
Yep.
Oh, that's so cool.
If you wondered why I have silver knobs on all of my units, I bought the silver knobs by mistake. I bought 20 of them. But I thought, well, I'll just put them on my test mules so I don't send anybody a test mule. So
there you go.
That's what they're for. But so it worked out really good. I mean, it's a little smaller. I've actually had 2 customers that said it's too small. I just can't find the keys or see things, and they didn't like it. And so I took them back, and I didn't want to do that, but it's part of being in business. So anyway, but to design the user interface around that little round dial was a challenge. But it was a fun challenge because I'm a minimalist. So get it to how do you get between screens? And there's a few things I'd like to change. And I've got some ideas. So there's probably a few updates coming, but it works, so.
From the UI
perspective.
Mike, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, holy crap, I haven't looked at your website in a while. It's like,
Mike, while you're
this
there,
is going to look cool.
Drop a link in the show notes, if you would, please. So, Lynn, what I noticed when I got my own, and again, Paul's to blame.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
And I am very thankful about it, actually. What I noticed was I'll tend to run it in either PTT, the knob itself, either in PTT or VFO mode.
Mm-hmm.
And they're only one step apart. Was that like a conscious choice when you built the interface?
I guess I'm not getting what you're saying.
When I switch between the function on the round part on the knob itself, I'm either using it in VFO mode, where I can sweep frequency up or down, or with one click back I can be in PTT mode, or one rotation of the knob, I think. And it's almost like you thought about the frequently used functions that people would be doing with this to operate their radio.
Tried to, and I also tried to put enough options in there that you could arrange it any way you wanted it. The PTT screen is actually, you have to go back to the main menu and hit PTT to get into the PTT screen. I don't think I've got a way right off the knob or the dial menu to go directly to PTT. I might have, I don't know.
I have my dual pack because I'm traveling on Friday, and I should have had it out here on my desk for this. I just remember that I rotate from VFO and I'm in the next thing that I might use almost frequently. And maybe it's not the PTT, but
well, I put volume right next to it, so
that could be. But there's clearly a whole lot of thought. So first off, thank you. There's clearly a whole lot of thought on the usability and the user interface on this. Because I stop and think about single click and double click of the buttons and what I'm going to use most frequently. And damn, everything just makes sense. I'm having the time of my life with this controller.
I appreciate that. I mean, I do consciously try to make it easy to use and smooth to fit an operator's needs, but everybody operates differently. A contester is going to have different needs than a casual user, and so I've tried to add at least enough flexibility in there where you can program the buttons and program the knob pushes, and and program the knob functions to the things that you need up front. If you're a CW guy, you want speed on there, and you want the VFO, or you may want RIT. So you got those three things on a duo.
Yeah.
If you leave the VFO on the virtual knob, so I've tried to make, like I said, that's the challenge that I enjoy, is taking a simple little small device and making it functional, to where it's intuitive. If you study user interfaces, one of the examples they used is an automobile. All the knobs and buttons in an automobile, or lately that's changed, but all the knobs and buttons in an older automobile have a function, but they all look different, but intuitively looking at them what they do. Sure. And you just, you look at a dashboard in an older car, you can operate it. Now I've got a truck with one of those tablet things, 12-inch tablet in it, and I cannot get that thing to do anything. And if I'm driving, I'm a hazard on the road. Yeah. So, the next car I bought has buttons for the things that I do the most.
And there is there's an acknowledgement and a push by the manufacturers to get rid of these great big touch screens and to move back to knobs for simplicity.
Well, too much information.
I mentioned earlier that we're looking for a new car for my daughter, or new to us car, and we went to go look at a 25-year-old Honda today, and the first thing she commented on is how she loved that everything had physical controls and was not a touchscreen. My daughter's 19, and she already is like, no, touchscreens are terrible in a car.
Well, I think it's a social experiment. I think they thought, well, we can do it. Let's throw it out there and see if it sticks. Well, it doesn't stick very well,
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned this. We were out today, and I got almost sideswiped by a Mercedes, not here in the area, which is actually pretty common, but both parts. But, so it happens, you honk the horn, it's whatever. Then we pulled up at a light, and I just sort of casually looked over at the driver. It was a beautiful car. It was brand new. She had to be 90. And I bet you it's all she can do, and with all seriousness, to get in the car and start it and drive it.
Yeah.
Unless, she's, a geeky type, a grandma type of, with all due respect type of thing. So I hadn't thought of that before, and I went,
Well,
"Holy crap, that's a
Well,
big
yeah, I
combo."
mean they've taken that into intuition out of it. You can't jump in a car with a touch screen and intuitively just get it to do what you want.
so
You have to
Try
scroll through the
try flying an
menus.
airplane.
Yeah,
is when you get a like an electric car like we bought a few years ago, those are just filled with touchscreen type things, and displays that are dynamic and are monitors. And I was having a really hard time finding a vehicle that I liked. I really didn't like Teslas because they were so minimalist and they just had like an iPad looking thing in the middle of the dashboard. I could not get into that. And the car we ended up getting is a Volvo C40. And what I liked about it is it had a traditional gauge cluster. It had some physical buttons. It still had the screen, but the screen wasn't massive and dominant.
yeah,
And I've been really pleased with it. Although it's true that it still was not, I don't know how to say it, but like you still were dealing with the touchscreen for a lot of functions. Well, they recently updated the user interface for it, and it came through one of the patches in the radio that does automatically, and now it's different. And it's sort of like someone moved all the knobs and buttons in your car kind of thing. Like, I mean, what little touch memory I had, because I don't like looking away from, the road when I'm driving.
yeah,
So I just kind of didn't do a lot of things when I was driving. I just do it when I'm stopped or whatever. Oh, it's just really ridiculous. And they have one of the better user interfaces for this. So
yeah. User interface is really part
mhm,
science and part art. I think
it is.
you have to get inside the mind of your user and say, what would I want it to do in this situation? And that's the fun part to me, is actually trying to figure that out and get it
Well,
to
and
work.
you're working with things that you're solving problems that like you yourself are running into. I mean, like you're finding solutions to things that you want a solution to, right?
Right, right.
That's maybe a niche for some
Well
people,
said.
for the market, but and when you do that, it's just like the very best, because transceivers, even field transceivers maybe especially, are actually really difficult to design, especially if they're modern. They have a lot of filtering. They got a lot of different options and things because you start to have stackable menus and all this stuff, and it's hard to get to these things. And when you're in the field, maybe wearing gloves, it's kind of a nightmare. But the very best made radios, the ones that really work, you can tell that the design team actually uses the radio. It's not just like a
Right.
theoretical thing that they're putting together,
Yeah.
because the workflow of it, like just where you go from where, what side of the radio, what's close to the encoder, blah, 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 blah. You can tell when something's really done well and was made by someone that actually plays with that radio in the
Yeah,
field.
exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's the best part about it, is being able to be in that driver's seat to make
Yeah.
some of those decisions and make it so that it's not just a thing that just sold, something
Yeah.
that people are actually going to use. And that's my goal, and I think Mark's probably in the same boat. He wants to sell products that people use, because
Yeah.
we're not going to be here forever, but it would be nice to be 20 or 30 years, 40 years down the road. I definitely don't want to live to be 100, but to actually have some of my little units still out there in the world that
Hmm.
people actually use, so
Hmm.
to me, that's worth the trade-off of the time that I spent to build them, to get them out there. They're like my little children. That's
That's awesome.
And
you
I,
know
I have to say that as a member of the group's IO mailing list for this, that there are days when you've put out 2 firmware updates within a day.
yeah,
When
yeah. And the reason that
very, very
happens,
responsive to user comments and
yeah,
suggestions.
but
And
the reason that happens usually with two updates is because the code base in the M5 devices and the CTR2 MIDI, basically the same code base. If I find a problem in one, I got it in the other one. So I got to go update both code bases. And that requires a push out for but that's what I try to do. And if a user has a problem, I like to figure out what it is. And if I find what it is, like the latest one was I had one of my users that couldn't enter a 64-digit password on his Wi-Fi. I only had 52 characters on my Wi-Fi password.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. And so, I sat down and didn't take very long to update it. So I expanded my buffer so I could do 64 characters, which, made him happy. And I sent him a beta version of that software so he could use his password. But I've never pushed that out into the next update because I know there's going to be something come up that
is
most
excessive.
users are going to need. So
even if you're only doing hex, that's still 256 bits.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
I'm a security guy, and I think that's excessive. But okay,
well,
go on.
it is. And somebody on the group pointed out, with 12 characters or 16 characters, you still have a trillion combinations or whatever.
I don't know. My Wi-Fi password's 26 characters long.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
26, not 64.
Yeah, but it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K.
Well,
that's
as
what
a matter
you
of
mean by
fact,
26
you're not
characters.
too far wrong. It's just the order in which I put it. But it's like that.
You don't get many tablet users, do you?
Yeah.
No kidding.
No, I don't. And I like it that way. Thank you very much. As you now, I'm going to ask the dangerous question, Lynn, and you may elect to decline to answer this.
Just decline, Lynn. Just decline.
Is there anything?
This is how things happen.
Is there anything coming up that you wanted to talk about?
Oh yeah, I get hit with this one all the time. Answer no.
Don't do it. It's a trap.
Just say
It's a trap.
Let me put it this way. I've got my hand on
Colonel Akbar or whatever.
Let's put it this way. When things slow down, my mind goes into overdrive. So
like being stuck in traffic.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's either that or doze off. So I try not to doze off a lot. So things slow down. But really, it's the evolution of a product that I'm really excited about. And the problem is if I say, oh, I got something new coming out, then I don't sell anything else.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Me,
it's a trap.
We know
That's
that one.
fine. There are cases where this question is perfectly applicable, and I didn't think this was one of them, but I did want to ask the question.
Well, I appreciate that.
If there was something you wanted to plug coming up at Hamvention, for example, right?
Yeah.
Like this would be the
in
time
a
to
good
do
way.
it.
Well, I'm not going to be there, so.
That's what I was going to ask, is if you were going to be there. Actually.
No, I've never actually gone to one. I've never. My route through ham radio has been pretty solo. I've done the things that I like to do. I was a part of a club at one time, but I've never been a club type person. I'm more of I'm an introvert, and introverts don't do well in club environments.
Yeah.
So
that's all of us here.
Yeah,
it is actually.
You guys are all introverts. Yeah. So so I'm not somebody that does well in
large crowds.
Groups.
Yeah, Lynn. At the end of Hamvention, all of us are curled up in the fetal position behind the table there. So
most
of
these guys are.
Yeah, I'm very much an introvert, and when I go to Hamvention, like I get a lot of energy from people I want to be with. I enjoy that. It takes some of my energy away, but I really enjoy it. What's really challenging for me is like positions I've been in before, like companies I've worked for, when I have to go networking at a place where I don't really want to talk to the people and I have to be social. Oh my gosh, I would rather do anything in the world than do that. But I knew people that were really extroverted that they lived for that. They lived for going out and just talking to everybody and making small talk and stuff.
Yeah, my wife is wired that way. She's an extrovert. When I was going through manager training back when I was her young manager, one of the things they brought out that really stuck is an introvert or an extrovert. Oh, let me put it this way: an introvert thinks to talk, an extrovert talks to think. And so that's the way my wife is, and I love her to death. But she randomly just talks because she's thinking. That's how
I'm
when she
not
talks, she
saying a
thinks
word.
it
My
through.
wife, yeah, my wife does that too, but she's
And
not an
I'm just the
extrovert.
opposite. I don't say anything unless I've had time to think it through.
So
You know?
I am an extrovert, but about 5 or 6 years ago, I started burning out really bad on
We
work
made
stuff
you
and
an
whatnot.
introvert.
What's that?
We made you an introvert.
Well, my wife will refuse to call me. Yes, I know. Thank you, Vince.
Rat hole.
Rat hole number
Rat hole
27.
number.
Every 10 he's telling us.
Yeah, my wife refuses to accept that I have become an introvert, and she claims that I am a burnt out extrovert, and that I still
I can
get
appreciate that
recharged by being around people and talking with people and observing other people
Yeah.
being happy and excited and whatnot. That
Yeah.
still recharges me.
Yeah,
Like
and-
I love sitting in a chair in the corner of a busy room with a lot of people having a great time. That is one of my favorite things in the world is to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't have the energy to do it myself anymore. Or at least
You know,
not as
if
much
I-
as I used to anyway.
If I had 1% of the skills that people that can walk in like a politician and work a room, I would be amazing.
Yeah.
I can walk in and sit in the corner.
But let me just say that these guys are saying this, both Mike and Mark, and Frank, Paul and Vince. Actually, all these guys here, if you see them at Hamvention at the table, especially though Mike and Mark,
Don't
because
take
they're
it
working
personally.
directly with don't take it personally anything they say. No, they're working directly with lots of people coming up, and sometimes that's in the capacity of customers and stuff, and they're explaining product in detail, and and Josh, our friend Josh, who comes, I watch him do that K7OH OSH, and George too, actually. And I think that probably all
that
these
guy's
guys
a
are pretty.
machine.
He's a
George is
machine,
amazing.
but I think George. Do you think he's an introvert?
Oh no,
He's an
he'll
extrovert.
claim he's an introvert, but he's absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's
most
amazing to watch these
extroverts
guys.
do.
It wears me out to watch you guys work, because it's just, I don't know, but it's like Hamvention. Hamvention is the thing. It takes me. When Sunday rolls around, and Sunday's a lot calmer and cooler than like Friday and Saturday, and of course like Thursday at 4 days in May. I'm
Friday
usually
at
like
10:15.
we're all hoarse. We're all hoarse from talking. We're
And
feeling
if you want any
great.
voiceover work done, just let
That's
me know.
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
In a
And
world.
In a world.
in a world, we would get, by Sunday, you're just kind of really worn out. And I kind of walk away from it, and I get this, like, it's this thing like where you've been kind of going 90 to nothing, and all of a sudden it stops a bit, and you're just like, you don't know what to do. And I found that, like, what we do at Hamvention now, my buddy Eric and I and his son Miles, we started doing this a long time ago. We take one whole extra day after Hamvention. We never just like go straight back home. We take one whole extra day to like decompress. And it makes all the difference in the world. And that's like when I know I'm an introvert. Like I want to go to a museum or something where it's quiet and just,
Last
something like that.
last year, a
You
group
need
of
to-
us
you-
all went and did POTA on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably what we'll do again this time. And it was, that's a really fun thing to do, and it's relaxing, and
You need to come by and help us pack up, because we start setting up Wednesday. Last year, because we actually keep a storage. There's a storage room there. Most of our Hamvention stuff does not leave Dayton, other than
Wow.
radios and the expense. But the tables and the a lot of the banners and the we have TVs that are, and so that all has to be shuttled back over to storage, right? And if you're really lucky, you're the guy that gets to sit around and watch stuff. I fell asleep in the middle of the floor on the carpet.
So you
They came back and they're banging on me, going, "Mike, let's go."
y'all have talked me into spending an extra day there as well.
Good.
So
Good.
I am driving 6 days out to Xenia. Then I've got Xenia, and then I'm driving 5 days back. And that first day of driving I'm scheduled to go from Beaver Creek, Ohio to Lawrence, Kansas, where I've got family, and I'll be spending the night there. That's a 10-hour drive behind the
long haul.
wheel, which will probably end up being 14 or 15 hours door to door.
Yeah, you better take Monday and go play and unwind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thought that I had was to cut the day in half and maybe get a hotel room in St. Louis instead. But I do kind of like the idea of spending the Monday after Hamvention in Ohio, doing Podo with you guys, sleeping,
for some reason
eating.
we like you, so
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Plus, you can take my Arborist Throwline 101 class.
That's right.
yeah. Me
Well,
too.
actually, I don't want. I'm glad George isn't here because I don't want him to know that I'm doing that because I want to watch him try to put an Arborist Throwline in a tree. Because I missed it last year and I heard that the tree suffered, and you guys unfairly
ensued.
punished the tree for just being there, and I want to see him do that.
We did. So we're at rat hole 29. So coming back, I was going to say, Paul, go ahead before I come back to summarize.
Yeah, I want to real quick, little side. We talked about announcing a new product before it's ready. There is an official term for that. It's called the Osborne effect, because back in 1983, Osborne Computer, who made one of the very first luggable PCs, came out with the Osborne 1, which I used to have one in my collection. Adam Osborne was designing the follow-up to it, the Osborne 2. He made the mistake of announcing that there was an Osborne 2 coming before it was anywhere close to being ready to ship. All of his distributors and all of his customers immediately canceled their orders for the version 1 because the new one was coming, and that tanked his company immediately.
Yeah.
So that is a term, the Osborne effect.
We can also call it the sore effect if we want.
We could, but we try not to do that.
That's
though,
a sore
Mark.
spot.
That is a sore spot.
But
Yeah.
My first product, Lynn, was called SOAR, Satellite Optimized Amateur Radio, and I spent a year developing this thing, and I was chatting with customers and getting feedback and all kinds of things, and we got to the very end, and the SA818 radio modules that I was using to handle the RF, they do not transmit well into a filter. And when you're going to try and do full duplex VHF and UHF, you must have a filter on there. It is non-negotiable. And as soon as the UHF module tried to transmit into a filter, it just started being unstable and having all kinds of problems. And I was never able to fix that problem. And so I spent a year hyping this product with, beta testers and an early adopter program, and I talked about it on the podcast all the time, and I never went to market with it. And
I have faith, and there's still a small pile of money here waiting for one eventually.
Waiting for it.
Yeah,
Someday.
So, coming back to the topic at hand, I mean, it's
We have
fascinating.
a topic at hand?
It's fascinating discussion. Lynn, as I think about, wrapping up here this evening with us, is there anything we haven't asked you that we should have?
No, I really can't think of it. I don't think I really gave you a good explanation of MIDI, using MIDI with these programs. If you want, real quick, I can kind of give you a short summary of it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because a lot of people are confused about it. Basically, MIDI is just a simple 3-bit or 3-byte protocol that you can have wheels and sliders and buttons. In MIDI term, they call them notes because they're meant to control notes. So basically, you have these different types of controls, and each control has, like a button has an on and off function. A dial has of some kind of a value, whether it's turning left or right, counterclockwise or clockwise. And when a slider has like an incremental value, like 0 to 127. So anyway, all of my controllers provide those types of MIDI controls, outputs. And what people don't understand is the controller itself doesn't do anything. It doesn't understand anything about what's going on in the app that it's talking to or the radio that's being controlled. It's just sending these controls. And so the key is you have to map each one of these controls on CTR2 MIDI or one of the M5 devices. You have to map each one of the controls, which is hardwired in the device. It's always button number one is always going to send MIDI button number one. So you have to tell the app button number one wants to change mode, increment the mode when you get a button number one command. So the application always has to be mapped to whatever the MIDI command is that the device is sending. Like I said, my devices always send hardwired MIDI controls, and they're easy to find. I have spreadsheets online that show all the mapping. And with the M5 dial with the display, the other thing you have to do is you have to tell the M5, the MIDI or the CTR controller what label to display when you bring up, say, the VFO. You wanted to say VFO, so when you're on the first dial control, which is number 100, you want it to say VFO. So you have to put that in there if I haven't already. So that's where people have gotten really confused. And I have videos on YouTube on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Lynovation. I got a lot of videos to explain kind of how the mapping works. But that's probably the thing that I get asked the most about is, I got this box and it doesn't work. It's like, and so now I try to purposely tell people this is not a plug and play device. You have to learn how to map it to get it to do what you want it to do.
The good news is Marcus has added your products directly to his software.
Oh, thank
so
goodness.
You just say, I've got a CTR2 MIDI, and it brings up the config, doesn't it?
It brings up a config, but it doesn't match exactly with what I do.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and that's a thing that I've run into with mine, because the flexes that I have access to, our clubs, are tied to the remote ham network, youth network. And while the RHR client lets you pull up the basic, there are a lot of limitations and things that it won't do. So I really wish that would integration be a little better on that too.
With RH or remote ham radio, they support limited number, and they put it in their documentation, the limited number of controls.
Yeah.
And along with some of the others, the HID devices, ones that use HID to only support a limited number of controls. So there isn't a lot you can do outside that, but you can ask them, hey, could you add this functionality to MIDI control number, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you still have to map that into your controller and change the label on your device to say that's what it's going to do. I do have a map that you can import into CTR2 dial firmware that has pre-configurations. If you go online to my website, I've got under the downloads, there's a download. Here's some, I'm not randomly.
I think I found that out. I struggled with mine for several hours, and then I found the download, and I'm like, oh, there's a map file. And I can import the map file, and even this idiot figured it out. And and it made
all right, that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to make it. I've got an Excel spreadsheet in there. Usually I've got a map for the software you're running, like Smart SDR or Thetis or whatever. I've got a map that I've exported that matches the map that I've saved off of the MIDI device or my controller. And so you just have to import those, and you can hand key in the labels on the M5 dial things. You don't have to go in with the terminal if you don't want to. But anyway, mapping on the MIDI functions is kind of the challenge that most new users get into. If you use the Flex Wi-Fi mode on any of my devices, they're already hardwired, so the controls already do certain things and they don't do anything else. You can't map them to anything. So that makes it real easy to connect directly to a Flex radio. And the nice thing about that, my Flex Wi-Fi modes, it connects directly to the radio server, and it uses the Flex API to control the radio. So you can have any number of CTR2 controllers connected to that radio. So if you want one on each slice, you can have multiple controllers and have one logged into each slice. And then you can run any of the clients that are out there now. There's several clients that are out there, and thanks to Claude, it sounds like it's fairly simple to build your own clients. So. And I've been pretty impressed. Aether SDR is only maybe a month old, and you look at what he's been able to do with AI is just amazing. So, and my devices work on his software. He put MIDI mapping in his software, and his A3 SDR can be MIDI controlled. So, but anyway, I just
one of the
wanted to
first
cover
things I
that.
tried when I installed Ether SDR is whether it worked with Halakey. Sure enough, it does.
Yeah. So
There's no reason why it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Well-
but anyway, I wanted to kind of make sure I covered that, because that has probably the number one technical issue that I've run into.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up. I had that in my notes and I missed it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I kind of
thank you.
skipped over it while we were talking. So
we've talked, according to the official rat hole counter, we've talked about 28 other things tonight. So that might set a record. I'm not quite
Official.
Official, yeah, with the rabbit ears, for sure. Lynn, is there anything else we should talk about before we wrap up?
I can't think of anything. I guess if you going back to the new product announcements, all I can really say is that I'm not dead yet. As long as I'm still kicking.
Rumors of your
Things
death
are
have been
still
greatly
going on in my
exaggerated.
mind, and there's things that I want to do that I haven't done yet. But I really appreciate the people that have supported me up to this point. I keep a running count of the number of units that I've sold, and in the last 3 years, I've sold about 1,800 units, which to me is mind-boggling. That there's that many people that think what I do is worthwhile. Yeah. So I really appreciate my users, and I've got some users that bought. Well, the individual that bought my original CTR2, a big stack, has got every one of my units after that. If when push comes to shove, if somebody's going to have a Lynovation museum, he'll have it.
He's one of that has all the monies.
And I've got,
and
I've got several users that have bought everything I've ever built. And I just really appreciate the faith that people put into me, that they send me money and I send them something that makes it worthwhile. So. I appreciate the invitation to be on your show. It's been fun. It's different than what I thought it would be. Thank goodness.
Your product has opened up a world for people to play with radio in a way and interact with radio in a way that they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm blessed. There's only one of us on the crew that doesn't yet have a flex radio. And that'd be Thomas. Not that I'm calling him out or anything, but with that, or with any radio, because this works with multiple platforms. Speaking personally, I've been able to work on my CW when I'm away traveling and working in hotels, and it's been great to be able to take radio with me without having to jack around and try to figure out how I'm going to open a window to throw a compromised antenna out and maybe not make a contact at all.
Exactly. When I travel, my experience with hotels is there's so much RF noise in their hotel CCTV system.
Yeah.
Receivers basically worthless. The better antenna you got, the more noise you got.
Absolutely. And as I've mentioned on here before, I've done remote operating from 2 different cruises. The first one for my cabin was done with the dial, and then the last one was with the quad. And that makes all the difference sitting there with the laptop and actual knobs to do stuff. So
it's the old school in us. You just have to have a knob to turn.
When I drive to Dayton now, and we have so many customers that they love HF mobiling, but it's a challenge to do it well. And I have a huge high Q HF antenna sitting in the back, and I usually put it on for Dayton, and it mounts on the trailer hitch and all. And they know a lot of, if you mobile HF, you spend a lot of time grounding things. Really good. Like the hood has to be grounded, the hatch has to be grounded. To cut down the noise. And this is going to be rat hole number 29 or 30. Yes. If you ever do HF mobiling, you need to read. Is it Kilo Zero Bravo Golf's webpage?
K0 Bravo Golf's webpage, but you now must do it on archive.org because he recently took it offline.
Wow, because it is a gold
mobile Bible.
How to age it. Mobile Bible. Anyway, but now another iPad goes in. It's on an ARM. My iPad Mini. I run Smart SDR for iOS. My CTR2 Mini sits on my knee or something, because sometimes you just want to get on 20 meters and slowly dial up the band. Old-fashioned way, because I obviously shouldn't look at the waterfall or pan adapter. And it's also my push-to-talk.
And you just have the flex in the back of the truck?
No, I connect to it on a data plan.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you mean
But
this is back your flex back at the cottage.
Yeah, let me put it this way, because it's late and I didn't consistently tell my story. I don't mount the big HF antenna, but I'm sitting here going, maybe I should put the high Q on, and maybe like 10 and 6 will open for my drive, because I leave on Monday, almost the early part of the week.
Yeah.
But nah, I'll just mount the iPad Mini 220.
All right, real good. Well, Lynn,
I hear
listen.
Thomas yawning.
Yeah,
Lynn,
I'm getting tired.
And my stomach is grumbling. I haven't had dinner yet.
All right, so let's not 75 meter it yet. Lynn, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Yeah,
we really appreciate that you came to join us and tell us about your stuff.
It's been great.
Clearly, we're big fanboys.
Oh, I appreciate that.
So, listen, from all of us at the Ham Radio Workbench, 73.
73.
72.
73.
Be good humans.